All right, Maj. I want to say welcome here. I never knew TV. Good, thanks for coming out. All right.
Thanks for having me.
First question I have. Please let me know what it was about your upbringing that molded you to become a fearless activist.
I was born in Philly, and being born in Philly, there's a juxtaposition between a lot of history. Some of it, if you're in Philly, you generally don't go to. Like a lot of people in Philly never like go to the Rocky Steps. Like we don't go there. There's history even with those steps. There's history outside of Rocky. There's history with that museum. You know, some of the early work, maybe even the first. Don't super quote me on that, but some of the first artwork in that spot being from a black male. You know, a lot of history. So when I was younger, I used to take tours. I would, because I used to sell weed in school. I would take tours, especially if there was no money in school. I would take tours of all of these different things, like William Penn's, uh, like the statue on top of City Hall. There's an elevator that goes all the way up there, and I would get blasted like high and just be thinking about stuff. And then I would run into, oh, this you took the tour, and what you mean, what tour? And then that's how I started taking these tours, all these different places, tours of Independence Hall where the Constitution was written. Now, what was being said about those men in that spot sounded very freedom and patriotic. When you hear that as a 15-year-old, you're like, damn, and you feel like almost like, damn, I got put on to something that my teachers don't even know. And I remember coming back to school talking about things and my teacher being like, where you hear that from? You know? And so at the same time, my uncles and other people were introducing me to the ISIS papers, you know what I'm saying? And the autobiography of Malcolm X, Now Valley Contributions to Civilization. So I'm learning about all of these different.
So you was getting that energy anyway.
Right. So I'm not separating the concept of freedom from any of these people. They rumbling for different types of freedom, and they rumbling from different types of propaganda. You know, and it's a common theme. I just, fortunately, I always give the example of I was almost like a great basketball player in high school. That coach is never going to tell him, Kobe, he's going to play point guard if he wants to, two guard. And since he's 6'6" in high school, he's going to play center too. He develops his whole game without restriction. If he would have went to college, they would have been like, you 6'6", you a two guard, that's all you're doing. Because I was getting this information direct, and ain't nobody put a cut on it to tell me how I was supposed to view freedom. I was merging people and things together, and nobody else could really have an answer for me. When somebody's saying black people didn't do X, Y, and Z, I was able to point them to Philadelphia history in the actual carvings in the building of City Hall, where there's statues in the middle of like Asian men, black men, white men, and whatever other people holding up as a symbol of we built this whole thing. So I wouldn't fall for the like, oh, your history only started at here. Or even in the middle of this foolishness, y'all didn't add value to X, Y, and Z. So I was already put on to the Benjamin Banneker's and Crispus Attucks, his commitment to this revolutionary thing. And so when I hear that word of freedom, these certain words, patriot, freedom, liberty, revolutionary. It's called the Revolutionary War. I'm not separating that from what the Black Panthers was doing. And so I was able to be inculcated in something that I was kind of being conditioned in a great way where I could have an argument on both so-called sides. And it also gives me a great tool to kind of like see that firearms were a part of all of it. You know what I mean? And then knowing this, I'm able to see kind of through, oh, you want to call freedom just for this group of people, or you want to call freedom for just this type of people. It gave me a better understanding of seeing who's who because I could pull from either side.
Where is all this courage coming from?
The courage is coming from just pain. I'm just tired. Like this whole situation could be really lit if people just did what's in the Constitution. I mean, these dudes wasn't just they pulled from Kemet. You know what I'm saying? There's no accident the eagle is the falcon. Like, that's not a oops. So they were pulling from great dynasties to make this thing a certain way and refined it. I think that those documents, meaning the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, was a great balance. It's a pyramid. So like me knowing that y'all pulled all of this from all of these different great societies that all pulled from other great civilizations, and leaving it up to the people to not know that and kind of fuck it up. And I'm just tired of it. We got a blueprint. So it's like the courage is like, yo, we don't got to do all of this extra shit. We could just apply this and make the public servants apply to this. We could just go back to this while acknowledging the contradictions of the men that wrote these things. Some of these men had contradictions. We ain't got to deify them, but we could say these documents is solid and make everybody be subject to the things that we say that these are the founding principles and documents of this place. So for me, the courage is just in the fact that the supreme laws of the land is in alignment with me because they pulled them from nature. They pulled them from the same spot. Don't think that them white boys wasn't pulling from somewhere that my ancestors wasn't pulling from. So with me knowing that, it's like the truth is already on my side.
For the viewers unaware of the history, can you delve a little deeper in regards to what they, I say pirated, but I'll say adopted for this case. So what they adopted from Kemetic culture that they applied to the origins of America.
The whole bunch of it. The fact that there's 13 first colonies, that's metaphysical principles. It's all over the place. The 12 disciples and then Jesus. The number 13 numerology represents, the transitioning from the physical to the spiritual, right? 13 colonies, 13 stripes, then at the same time, trying to cap people up later, like 13 is a bad luck number. It's like, we see the contradiction. We see, there's a Kemetic pyramid on the back of the dollar. And I'm not trying to sound all like, cause somebody gonna chop this up on social media and put that little spooky music behind it and make it seem like, you know what I mean? But the reality is, it's like, let's not pretend like these great civilizations and empires didn't pull from other great civilizations and empires. When you see Michael Jordan, you see Dr. J. When you see Kobe, you see Michael Jordan. When you see LeBron, you see all of them. Like, let's not pretend. And so the problem is where people are pretending like they didn't pull from something great and it can't be used for something great. There's a reason why come on, bro, the 10 Commandments, that's the 42 laws of my. Like, come on, we don't have to be, this don't got to be like an adversarial thing. It could just be like, all right, maybe we should apply this and we should just respect it as such. Again, while calling them contradictions. It just makes, when you're a student of history, it makes for a better, well-rounded person because I can see what didn't work. I can see what does work. And the common theme through all of this is anytime there's revolution, when people are being tyrannical and overpowering or attempting to overpower or be tyrannical towards the people, those things can be slowed up with people that are armed. In contrast, when people are not armed, they get steamrolled. So this ain't complicated, and that's where the frustration or the courage, the mixture of knowing, frustration, and courage comes from the fact that this don't make me super smart. It makes me wise because I'm looking back and go, that's the Sankofa concept. I know where I'm going if I ain't even paying attention to where I was. The problem is there's very few people like myself that can study, analyze, and apply all of this information to modern right now. You know what I mean? My skill set is the ability to translate, to study and translate and make it simple to the people. Like Bruce Lee. We're not going to do this all secret back in the day, behind closed doors. The people want to be able to defend themselves. Bruce Lee was like, I'm going to teach the people. The elites had a problem with it. And Bruce Lee is a legend. Just because he wanted to share the information with the people. Most people are not brave enough to act on it, though. And that's one of the stark differences.
I was listening to a podcast you did. I think it was in 2022. Tell me about the advice your grandmother gave you to always respect the devil.
Oh, yeah. You got to respect the devil. My nana used to say, God bless the dead. God bless the transition. Because that energy don't die, it just transfer. My nana used to say, respect the devil. And for a long time, I just never really rocked out. I was like, I don't really get it. But all right, Nana said it, so I'm going to do it, right? And what she meant by that over time is the devil is ancient. You think you're smart or wise. At the moment where you don't pay homage to a crafty, unscrupulous, highly manipulative, and very old energy, you lose. Because it's like when we talking to our children, your children think they're getting one over on you, and you're like, man, I did that when I was 14 too. And the moment that you think that I've seen it all, and that energy is ancient, the things that you think are you've seen it all, you're a speck in the timeline. When you don't respect the devil, you think that you got it all sewed up. I respect when I'm sitting down on a chessboard and the person on the other side is may not be my opposition in real life, but they're my political opponent on the chessboard. If they make a good move, I'm not going to get mad about it. I'm just going to go, in my head, that was a good move, and just create plans for it. When you respect the devil even more, you go into it thinking that every single move that this energy is making is going towards an ultimate goal. I have to be vigilant. I have to be on point. I have to be consistent, and I have to pay attention all the time. At the moment that you don't, because of your false ego, you fail to respect the devil. There was a movie called The Devil's Advocate where Keanu Reeves was an attorney, and he wasn't respecting the devil even after he thought he beat the devil. And at the end of the movie, you know, the devil shows up again on some joke shit. But he thought he had figured it all out. You know, so the advice, you know, I don't rock with the United States government at all. I'm a patriot. I think that there should be as limited amounts of government as possible. I do not trust this government. If you're a hardworking American, if you're a hardworking human, you probably shouldn't trust the state either. And that doesn't make you an evil person. That makes you just like George Mason, just like Thomas Paine, just like Harriet Tubman, just like, you know, we want limited government. We want the government to do that job. I respect when that government becomes so large. I respect how powerful that devil is, because that's what it is. It's a mafia. It's a mafia that wants a monopoly on violence to coerce you or force you into doing the stuff that you could in your human right to say, nah, no, thank you. I just seen a joint with Gotti talking about he ain't paid property tax on some cribs that he paid cash for like 4 or 5 years. And they sent them the letter like, yeah, we're going to seize these joints if you don't get that paper right. That is a mafia move. Think about that. I paid for these homes outright. I own them. There's no mortgage. You, as the government, have had nothing to do with me acquiring these. But you show up and it's a shakedown. If you don't give me these, if you don't give me money for these properties that you own, we're going to take the whole property. And if you say, no, thank you, if you're in there with arms, they're going to send people with guns to shoot and kill you for that property. That sounds like a devil to me. So just respect the power of it and figure out ways to maneuver and get around it. Respect the devil.
I want to talk about why you changed your name from Martin Anthony Jones to Maj Toure.
Yeah. Most people that come into knowledge of self, it's tattooed on my arm. And I think that a lot of people, like Hove, which is a nickname, Hove's artist name is Jay-Z. His given name was Sean Carter. When you come into a different, like Hove has, anybody that's familiar with Hove's history knows Hove's went through different schools of thought. You know what I mean? Whether that is 5% teaching. He doesn't really talk about it often. But my point is, if you listen to his music, you'll see what he aligns with. And you see the growth. And as an artist, on an artist level, people don't usually use their stage name or their artist name. They a different identity, something that's more in alignment with what they are representing and about to the world. So that's one angle. But I wanted to do that as I became younger. When I was younger, as I became more enlightened, I wanted to align my name with something that had more to do with where I was going. And Maj, without dissing my mom and pops, because they gave me my given name. Some people call that, in certain teachings, they say that's your government name, right? For me, I was studying heavy more into Kemetic principles and things like that. And Ma'at being the ancient Egyptian goddess or Kemetic goddess of truth, balance, reciprocity. My aunt aligns justice. I just want to be in alignment with justice. I just want to be respectful to the feminine while existing in my masculine, which is balance. And I wanted to create something or a name that is in alignment with that. And Toure, one of my favorite revolutionary or solutionary activist community organizers, is Kwame Toure. You know what I mean? Formerly known as, and I'm saying this out of respect for the people that don't know, as Stokely Carmichael, who's by and large ignored in America for the amazing amount of revolutionary and solutionary work that he did. I would recommend everybody go look into Kwame Toure. And I thought he was I just thought he was a strong dude. I think he was a real strong dude, and I thought his policies were on point. As I disagree with some things, but we disagree with everybody. And so for me, it was Maj Toure.
Yeah, he was very brilliant in regards to how he was able to. I'm always impressed with people who could break down a system while living in the system.
Yeah.
Most time you need distance of space and time. You can break it down, but there's a level you can break it down. But he like broke it down like he was analyzing it from 100 years away. You know what I'm saying?
He was almost doing it while, like you said, while in it, almost like he was having a bird's eye view. You know, and that's part of the reason why I used to really evaluate when I would get high on them tours and be at the top of the city. It would be that room to be like, yo, the pressure that you had, because you can see North Philly where I'm from up there. The pressure that you have, or what you think you have while you're down there, isn't that deep, because look at the rest of this. You know what I'm saying? And so those bird's eye view, intellectual, not only, he wasn't just, because I don't want to minimize him to just the intellectual, because sometimes the intellectual just theorizes. There's a lot of those dudes. I think I won't mention these clown goofball names because I don't want to give them no love. I think there's a lot of rappers that have podcasts that are pretending like, you know, from a certain era, that are pretending like they're revolutionary, and they're really just their parents were intellectuals. You know what I'm saying? You not really intellectual, and you not really pro-black. You just it's a good package right now to pretend like you pro-black and just say a few things. But if I don't really see you consistently giving resources and or time to improving the community, I can't really say you pro-black to me. But I think that he was an amazing intellectual and advocate and activist. That term activist in certain circles is now presented with such a negative connotation. It's presented as if you're an activist, that means you just yelling at people and holding up signs. Activists mean you active. You putting in work in your community. When a gang member say he active, understand that he is actively doing work in opposition, going on missions against the other crew or other gangs. And so I'm active. Kwame Toure was active. And so my name being a hodgepodge mix of my aligns justice, which is in alignment with Martin Anthony Jones, because I don't want to disrespect my parents, as well as Toure. You know, one of the first places that I went was West Africa. You know, and that name in and of itself is West African royalty. And so that's the identity that I chose for myself. Not as some people on social media seem to think like, oh, he's trying to hide his name. It's like, you don't say the same thing about Hove. Like, and it's kind of like on my arm. So cover-ups exist. I just think that people don't know how to have a balance. They don't have to say, this is one position of where I was in my life and my given name. And I'm not like ashamed of it. She named me after the Honorable Dr. Martin Luther King. You know what I'm saying? Whose commitment to the Rumble is unquestioned. You know, even if you disagree with some of his tactics. But nah, that's where it came from. And these are the parts of the game that the general public doesn't really understand about me. They think he's just this dude advocating for guns. They don't recognize, bro, I probably forgot more about Kemetic information. The books that I read when I was 14 or 15, I read the ISIS papers when I was 14. And so it's like, this ain't new. And so when the people show up and try to act like, because I'm in certain rooms, oh, he has CPAC, or he on Fox, he must be one of them. It's like, you have no idea where I'm committed to this thing, you know? And so, so it's a great conversation to have, but sometimes people don't ever even bring it up.
Speaking about work, let the people know about the facility you have in Philly,
yeah,
and the services you provide.
Yeah, we have a community center in Philly. It's called. We're working right now. The last $300,000, we're trying to raise that to buy the building outright, to own it outright. It's called the Solutionary Center. It's basically a community center that if anyone wants to teach a skill set, they can use the space for free. If anyone wants to learn at any of these classes, they can learn for free. We do firearm safety, which is in alignment with our first mission, which was Black Guns Matter. That's the bulk of things because a lot of people want to learn how to defend themselves. The space has been available for yoga, people that want to get certified in phlebotomy, sewing, just anything that we're working on some guys that's like plumbing and electrical, anything that someone wants to teach a class or learn, they can come use the center for free. That's actually what develops community. Me only being a firearms instructor is one slither of it. But teaching somebody how to shoot and not teaching them how to stop a bleed is like lopsided. Teaching somebody about firearms and not teaching them about conflict resolution or de-escalation and honing in that the most important thing is this is a tool of last resort. And these are areas and ways in which we build community. And I think that a lot of people be pretending like our communities don't need this, or they say your community, you should pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and this is what we do. And so we do all of that, and we're able to keep it free because of voluntary donations. I've raised maybe over $600,000, and I've given it away. You know what I'm saying? Like it's individuals voluntarily choosing to add to a collective effort. That collective effort then benefits the individual rights, responsibilities, and requirements to be robust. And so these are the areas and why I'm confident in saying things like, if you're not doing things like this, I'm not saying you have to do it at the same extent or it has to be the bulk or the majority of your work.
You gotta be doing something, bro.
You gotta be doing something. And don't expect me to tap in. And every time somebody like myself is talking these things, you go to try to tear them down because they was on a platform that, you know what I mean? Like right now, I'm 100% white bald. 100%. When it comes to hip hop and media outlets, I say this at every time I do a hip hop leaning platform that's decentralized media like this podcast. There's a reason why Ebro will pretend like he wants to have a conversation with me, but still won't. And I'm not saying any of these things disrespectfully. And I'm saying this about these guys because I respect their position and I respect them as humans. And so there's oh, he did this TV show. He did this platform. So we're not going to do them. These are the same people that act like they want to highlight people doing community work in Black communities.
In their defense, because I had a question about these media platforms, but they don't own them. So I think that's the source of it in a sense. Yeah, they may have pull, but they have pull to a certain extent.
I vehemently disagree.
All right.
These men can have one. I'm going to be easy how I say this. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been on the Breakfast Club. You don't get canceled faster generally than having Louis Farrakhan on. He was on. Everybody that they have on does not necessarily resonate with young people, right? And I think all young people should listen to Minister Farrakhan. I think you should at least listen to him and make a decision based on listening, not listening to media propaganda that says, oh, he's anti-Semitic. That's all you paint him as. Do I think his approach on certain topics could be better? Yep. But who am I? He's way older than me, and you know what I mean? So I believe that these gentlemen can have these people on. We've engaged where they said they wanted to have me on these platforms. They won't. So I believe that they could have me on if they actually advocated. But the people that they have on, the common theme that these people don't talk about being armed. That's where they get scared. Mind you, a lot of these dudes own firearms.
I was gonna say though, because a lot of the entertainers they interview have criminal charges for firearms, promote violence through firearms, and I've heard hosts speak about themselves owning firearms. So I don't see the issue with a firearm.
The issue is this is gonna sound arrogant, and I want the listeners to really understand that that's not my intent. If you ever meet me, I'm the humblest person ever. they don't generally have people on that can influence people in a positive direction. They don't have people that say, I'm armed, I train, I'm a community activist, I respect women, I'm strong, and I will fuck you up if you try to violate my body. If you put my life or my friends or loved ones in imminent danger, I have the skill set to defend my family, loved ones, and from that. That is someone that says, this person clearly is not Democrat. I'm a libertarian. This person clearly is objective and he's cool. He's going to influence too many people. And I do think those phone calls happen. Some of my friends tell me, yo, I'm getting these phone calls about you. You know what I'm saying? And I think that they could if they wanted to. I would welcome them to have me on to discredit me. Tell me how gun control is not racist. Tell me how young black men should not be safe and responsible firearms owners. Tell me how the Democratic Party and Republican currently are actually benefiting black communities. Tell me why we shouldn't go libertarian or independent to shift our political affiliation. Because a political party is just a vehicle. Tell me where I'm wrong and let's have that dialogue. But do you know why? Usually the people that they have on can be segmented into one lane. Somebody like myself that is in shape, that works health and fitness, finance, personal protection, accountability, is willing to fight for freedom and liberty, and can influence young people without judging them. I'm not telling young people you shouldn't smoke, you shouldn't drink. I'm saying, is that thing in alignment with your overall goal? It may not be. So they don't have people on that can influence people in a holistic manner. And they definitely don't have nobody on talking about arming the hood. To have me on, and I respect the devil, to have me on is a silly move by the devil. To have me on is, unless you're asking me there to trap me, which is a move that I would be prepared for. To have me on, or to not have me on, is a strategic move that I respect, and I'll continue to call it out for what it is. You know, they should be afraid of me. They should be afraid of my influence. Not in a way like violence. I mean in a way of, these guys have prison industrial complex money. I will fuck your bag up over there. I will have all of these. The question that people should ask is, why won't they have somebody on that will openly advocate for young men to use firearms only in defense? That will advocate for young men to stop going to jail, that will advocate for men to get politically involved and change some of the rules that are costing us jobs, costing us opportunities. Why? That's the question that people should ask them, not me. Because for 6 years, I've been doing this. You know, that's the bigger question. And to that point, I think that those types of dudes, yeah, they don't own the platform and they could advocate for somebody like myself that has a track record of doing that. The question that people should ask them is why they won't.
And I guess we should ask, why would they? Because it doesn't align. It doesn't align with what they want.
If they really believe what the shit they saying, that's why I call contradiction. When you are Power 99 FM in Philly, where I'm from, and for 30 years you've been saying stop the violence, increase the peace, but you will not have someone that has a community center literally helping people get jobs, because most crimes is we ain't got no money, right? And someone that says if you do a crime, a crime has to produce a victim, right? If you violate, rob somebody, point a gun at them, shoot them, kill them unjustifiably, I still want you to go to jail. So I'm tough on actual crime. I'm advocating for empowering our communities. Your tagline has been stop the violence, increase the peace for however long, but you won't have me on. I'm just calling a contradiction. If maybe they didn't see the contradiction initially. Okay, now you see it. When are we gonna have this sit down, Ebro? When are we gonna have this sit down, Breakfast Club? DJ Envy shoots at the range of a friend of mine that owns the range in Jersey, Anthony Calandro. They're aware of the work. Let's sit down and come up with a comprehensive plan how we can reduce violence and the death and black communities by 60%. I got the platform. I got the formula. Let's do it. Do you know why they won't? Because I think on certain levels, again, if the minister comes, they know that he's not going to impact young people the same way. But if I sit down, these young people, we the same. Other than my level of intelligence and my approach on certain things, but our ability to be aggressive and direct for the things that we want. And when you show these young people a different way, and when you show them, now we ain't gotta, it's called a trap. We ain't got a trap. We ain't gotta walk into the trap. We can come get some corporate money. We can get some LLC money. And I'm not talking about them influencers that just start an LLC and everything will be right. You go to the bank and they're going to give you $500,000. I'm talking about here's products that you can sell. You can sell anything. All of the hip hop artists that are OGs in the game now, hip hop is 50. All of those dudes sell product or services to Cal Athletics, Method Man. 50 Cent, he going to sell you. He been selling you something from the gate. You know what I mean? When we show them that, and the distance in age isn't that far, and I'm cool as shit, you're going to influence them in a different way. The problem is that's going to impact different bags of money for those people that are investors in those platforms, to your point.
Please tell me how politicians, corporations, and news media companies use data and statistics to lie to the American public. Oh,
there's a great book. Bill Gates is a fan of it. It's called How to Lie Using Data and Statistics. It's a great book. So the best example and the most recent example that we can give is the COVID overreach by the government over the last few years. But the vast majority of so-called conspiracy theorists that were like, I don't know about this. This look like propaganda. They were attacked. They targeted the black community. They said, we got to make sure that the black people get their jab. We got to make sure that the black people get their vaccine. And people in the hood was automatically going like, y'all never really hook us up. I'm a little leery. They used the propaganda. They started counting. There was a great website that did a lot of good data and stats on it in real time. I think it was called Worldometers or something like that, where they weren't counting. They were counting cases or things being called cases of COVID, right? So if you had the flu, a coronavirus is the flu, influenza, could be trapped in that thing called a strain of coronaviruses. So if you had something that looked like that, you got coronavirus, right? Then they switched the branding again, was like, well, you got COVID-19. They lied about, gain of function funding. Fauci got on the stand and lied about it. Rand Paul has been tearing him up and showing the American public how he's been lying for 2-3 years at this point. Everybody that looked crazy was right. Everybody that act like they was helping was lying. Meanwhile, pharmaceutical companies that the government bought and they have owned part of that patent, they sold all of this. You got to get this vaccine. Perfect examples of them lying were laid right out in front of us. 100%. Worldometers was talking about this is how many people globally, or you could break it down by nation. In the United States, this is how many people have been said to have this thing. This is how many people have fully recovered. That part on media was completely mainstream media narratives. They weren't talking about, okay, this person had it. They didn't explain the severity. They didn't say that most people that even get this thing that we're identifying as COVID, coronavirus, novella coronaviruses, whatever, these people have fully recovered. They didn't say that, they kind of just was a little sniffly for whatever. They didn't say that. They just said, this many people got it. Then right at the same time, flu, poof, disappeared. So when people was like, it felt like they said I had corona, but it felt like I had the flu, because you did have the flu. But media, in conjunction with government, and then at the time forcing social media to lie about this, as the Twitter files, as now the Facebook files are coming out, they conspired to say, don't have people talking about this. Robert Malone, buddy of mine, Dr. Peter McCullough, leading minds in this field, were then like, dude, this is wrong. Then they become, you're a quack now. So they use their media skillfully to do the same thing. This is the best example of showcasing in real time how the media in a short period, it was close. This was like 2 weeks ago, damn near. But it was long enough that people could say, nah, that actually happened. It ain't 100 years ago. They utilized the propaganda tactics of Edward Bernays and all of these different media outlets, propaganda godfathers. They used it. And they told you that your family couldn't go to the funeral. They arrested the same people that talk about they're Christian conservatives, law and order people. They used the police and the monopoly of violence that if you were worshiping during that time in a municipality where they said you should not worship, they arrested them. They arrested 7, 8, 9-year-old girl for not wanting to wear a mask in New York in the art museum. They locked her up. No proof that this little piece of cloth actually worked. All of the information prior to and after proved that this doesn't work for that. They lied to you so skillfully. Black people were somewhat immune to the deception because we used to being lied to by the government forever. We hip to the Tuskegee syphilis experiments. We hip to this great book called Medical Apartheid. We hip to Acres of Skin, where they were experimenting on prisoners, black prisoners in the Holmesburg prison in Pennsylvania. So we was like, we don't trust y'all, rightfully so. It seems now that a lot of people want to pick up when black people have been telling y'all something. And I take it out of black. People in urban America, my white homies, this North Philly as ever, was like, that's bullshit. So now y'all want to act like y'all want to catch up when people in the hood was telling y'all, this police brutality thing is serious. Then Rodney King in the 90s is on tape. And then everybody's like, oh my God. And everybody in the hood was like, yeah, that's Tuesday. Now, is it the only or the biggest problem in America as it relates to urban America? No. But even if you get caught in that 1% of getting your ass whipped by the police, it's a bad day for you. And the reality is it's not supposed to be happening at all. This is the standing army that the founders warned us about. So they use all of this media skillfully to lock people up, to say they about law and order. And then when the government, in conjunction with media and the monopoly of violence, said, this what you gonna do? We had people miss funerals. We had people, entire economy collapsed. Also, pharmaceutical industry, drug dealers, because they say drug dealing is the worst thing in the world. The drug dealers can make record billions and trillions of dollars worth of profit. If that's not the perfect alley-oop for the lesson of don't trust the media, most effective devil in America, I don't really know what to tell a person at that point. They've all conspired. Conspiracy does not mean it's not true. Conspiracy, you're conspiring, 2 or 3 or more people working together to get an agenda knocked off to their desired outcome. And it's 100% exactly what happened. Meanwhile, at the same time, any conversation around early prevention of COVID was squashed. Ivermectin and hydrochloroquine facilities across the globe burned down. So the cheap alternative, if I'm the drug dealer, we can't have them selling that better thing for the thing that we got for cheaper. Go burn they block down. It's the same concept. It's just geopolitics, corporate with more zeros behind the first number. That's all.
How has data been used to support the argument to disarm American citizens?
Oh, that's a wonderful one. They do that skillfully. One of the most recent ones that they did was the where they're saying guns are now the leading cause of cause of death. What they did was they switched and they added, it's not, number one. But what they did was, to make it seem so, they did 2 things skillfully. One, they don't let people know that they count suicides with firearms, because 60% of the deaths associated with firearms generally are suicides. So they don't tell people that they count in suicides as firearms related death, because technically it is. Someone used a firearm to kill themselves. But they don't make that distinction, which is very unscrupulous. And 2, the most recent one is where they switch it to, they grouped in 18 and 19-year-olds. There's nowhere else in the world, or in their world, that they count 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds as adults. Right? As children. They go, they're adults, they're not children. So they say, we'll add 18.
You have a higher population of people using firearms in that range compared to a child. So that's why we pat them. Yeah.
So they add that and say we're going to count 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds as children, not adults, as they do everywhere else. And those deaths, the vast majority of those suicides, we're going to count that too. So that's a perfect way to make an unsuspecting or unaware person. I understand the person that doesn't know the little games that Everytown and the Bloomberg funded organizations, Moms Against Demand Action. If you don't know that that's the very manipulative approach that they take, and you're thinking about, damn, we got children dying from guns. Quite naturally, I don't want children. I have children. Quite naturally, you're like, damn, we got to do something. The problem is, A, you don't know that they're lying to you to get their agenda off. And two, they're not showing you how they really don't care. They just are saying this to pull at your emotional heartstrings to get you to violate your own human right to self-defense by voting in policies that make you defenseless. These are the same propaganda machines and tactics and unseen hand moving around in the background that would lock up people for going to church during the COVID thing. Here's the thing. We didn't educate people around COVID. We don't educate people around firearm safety. We don't want to educate. We just want to scare you and create for you to vote in legislation that takes that right away from you. The proof that this works, education over legislation. In the 90s,
I like that one, education over legislation.
100% is way better. In the 90s, we had a massive issue in America, especially the urban centers, with teen pregnancy. Pac had a song, Brenda's Got a Baby. It was a massive problem. Like, some girls were having the babies, dumping them in a dumpster, right? We didn't make legislation that said it's illegal. If you under 18, if 19, whatever, if you have a baby, you have sex, we're going to lock you up. We didn't do that. We introduced a more productive, because this new thing that they call in sex education is some other shit. But we introduced genuine, hey, this is what happens with your reproduction system as a young lady and as a young man. We educated those teenagers about sex ed. Parents signed off if they wanted their children to be exposed to this conversation because it's a taboo subject. And what happened? Teen pregnancy plummeted. It's like damn near not even a thing now. We just educated people. So with that approach, I don't need to lock up teenagers for having sex. I need to be informing them about, hey, this can happen and this can happen. And outside of just abstinence, here's 7 other different ways that you and your parents can talk about, along with teachers or counselors or therapists, that can prevent you from having an unwanted pregnancy. Because we don't even got to get all the way to abortion. There's 1,000 different ways before you even get to that. We educate the young people and they make different decisions. This is, to the other point, this is the reason why you don't want me on certain platforms educating the general public. Because the people that's pretending like they care about our children, the youth, and freedom and all of that, these people are liars. They don't want to educate. They got a bag they trying to get. They want to pretend like they care to, again, get you emotionally invested, vote for them so they can secure other bags. And then they can say, oh, we got to do something. No, we don't have to do something. We have to do something that works. And all of the data shows education beats legislation. But you wouldn't want education if you're trying to lock these people up, these same people that you pretend like you care about.
Please let our viewers know where the idea for Black Guns Matter came from.
Yeah.
And what is the mission of Black Guns Matter?
Black Guns Matter as an organization, as a movement, we are here to inform everyone, more specifically in urban America, because that's where the bulk of this racist practice of gun control is. To people that don't know, gun control was literally started to stop Black people from exercising their Second Amendment rights. And I'm not just talking about the thing that Ronald Reagan did with the Mulford Act in Cali in the 60s. We're talking about the Black codes, the slave codes. Like, entire state constitutions were amended to say Black people can't have the right to keep and bear arms, even though the Second Amendment was 100% clear. So we go to those areas and inform that demographic and break that spell there. Some people think that I'm saying only Black people, and it's not called only Black Guns Matter. Fred Hampton Sr. wasn't about only black people. It's like, yo, if you are in opposition to overreaching government and the state encroaching into your life, if you really a patriot, if you really about that freedom thing and liberty, you should be behind this. And if you happen to be white, awesome. You happen to be Spanish, awesome. You happen to be black, Spanish. Awesome. It doesn't matter. In doing so, we had a stated purpose of making the urban demographic, mostly black people, because that's where we were targeting because of those laws, unconstitutional statutes, I should say that, because they're not laws. They're not valid. We said we're going to make this demographic be the new largest gun buying demographic. We started that in 2016. By 2019, that was proven. We had only spent about $300,000. We just went to all of these areas where all of the homicides were. We were just preaching the gospel of gun control is racist, because everything in America is not racist, but some things really are. That's one of them, right? And so we just showed people, showed and proved, gave people the information, helped them learn how to do this safely and responsibly. That started to snowball. I've produced way more people doing the same thing that I've done because it inspired a lot of folks. My God, the Don Firearms in Boston, great instructor, great brother, friend of mine. He came to our very first Black Guns Matter class in Boston. A few hundred people. He is a firearms instructor now, informing and empowering that community in Boston, you know? And everybody's so ironic because people say, oh, well, Boston, Boston's so racist. Maybe it is. But if that's the case, then why wouldn't you want, white or black, why wouldn't you want black people to have the means to defend themselves from that small amount of racists in Boston? Makes sense. So when I hear white dudes going like, this shit is awesome, I can't let everybody that's trying to go like, all of them white people. Bro, I got white supporters that are kill a ghost for me, And so this balance and highlighting the structured racism, galvanizing people of all backgrounds, Americans, humans, that want to overturn that foolishness and empower those communities, and the data is in alignment with when there's more safe and responsible firearms owners, there's less violent crime.
Can you delve deeper and explain to the viewers why you say gun control is racist?
Yeah. All gun control is racist because it's older than America. It's a good thing that you took that class. Again, shouts to Anthony Calandro and Gun for Hire, because they'll explain to you all of this missing information, because everything that I see on TV, for the vast majority of stuff on TV, is 100% wrong. If you urban, they're going to show you pointing the gun this way, which is wrong, right? Every time they present the firearm, you're going to hear it click, clack. First of all, the round has already been chambered. You just doing this does not produce a sound. They do that in Hollywood to say we need to show, or so they think, we need to show that click, clack gun is being presented. Never mind that a gun is actually being presented. The media is complicit in fostering an ignorance around firearms related issues, because that same media conglomerate has multiple investments. It's like record labels. You got a subsidiary of Def Jam. Def Jam is owned by Universal. Universal is owned by Vivendi. Vivendi owns like Seagram's, your ginger ale company, which means they have a multitude of investments. One of those multitude of investments is prisons. So if I have a media outlet that is consistently misinforming the general public about this thing, the biggest one being like warning shots. I shot a shot in the air. That is not a thing. You can't just take a warning shot in the air. First of all, what goes up must come down. It's a round. 2, you shoot a firearm when there's an immediate and imminent threat to life. I don't shoot a gun in the air as a warning. If I have time to do that, I have time to run away, which is what I would recommend that most people do if you can. I carry a gun with me damn near everywhere. But television says, yeah, give them a warning shot. Then you never take a class. You don't sign up for our online classes, which are $20 from anywhere in the world. We give them weekly. You don't got, Maj, I can't come to the city that you in. Cool. Invest $20 for an hour and a half long class that we're going to fill your brain with so much information. So you don't take the class. Television tell you that.
Hold on, Maj. Hold on. Jump back, bro. Say what you just said. I don't think people heard you in regards to the first thing you would recommend doing is what?
Taking the class.
No, prior to the class in regards to running.
Oh, absolutely. The first thing is you should do.
I think you've been painted in such a wrong way. I think because of the whole guns matter. People think like you're trying to be aggressive. And anyone, even I took Krav Maga, bro.
Yeah.
And the first thing they tell you too is conflict resolution, bro. No one's telling you to just engage with people.
I'm in the space where the best example that I can give of how much gun owners think, safe and responsible gun owners. I don't say legal, lawful gun owners, because the rules are wrong. So I'm not following an unconstitutional and immoral rule. Safe and responsible gun owners avoid everything. We generally we are the epitome of the black statement. Who all over there? We are that. What's over there? Who in there? Nah, I'm not going over there because I'm taking my gun. And I don't, if I think I need to take my gun as opposed to I just have my gun if something happens. If I think I need to take my gun to go there, I'm not going there. I'm out. When I'm in a situation, I give this perfect example, bro. We are consistently thinking about the places that we put our bodies in because our gun's with us. I remember one time I was in a club and I knew the bouncer. I had my gun. Usually if you see me in a club, I know somebody and I got my gun in there. Whether it's me pulling them off. It's been getting easier as I've become more famous because motherfuckers, security guys usually is gun guy. Oh shit. And it's like, look, bro, you know I'm the good guy. And they like, I know you the good, come on. I don't even get patted down a lot. And I love that. Not because I don't want these guys to so-called do their job. That guy knows he's doing his job. I'm adding another good guy to this mix. So if a terrorist come in here and try to AR-15 a joint, we got some more good guys on our side. So if I'm in the space with my gun, and it was when I first got a pair of Yeezys. I like Yeezys. I got 2 or 3 pair of them, the slides. They're interesting looking shoes, but they super comfortable. And at that time, people knew it's almost like a status symbol because they're very expensive. They're like $350. They're overpriced, but I like them. And I wanted to support Ye. Get the joints. I'm in that joint having a great time. Got my gun on me. This dude is beautiful women all in the joint. I'm talking thick, beautiful women, which means none of the men are paying attention to me. This dude buzzing, he dancing, whoop-de-whoop was packed in there. Dude steps on my $350, $400 Yeezys. The conversation happens in your own mind. Gun owners go, safe and responsible gun owner, I go, what you getting mad for, bro? In my head to myself. You chose to wear these overpriced motherfucking slippers in here. To a club. We're drunk people. And thick women that no men are paying attention to you. So everybody in here dancing, he two-stepped right onto your shoe. You chose to wear them expensive. Now you feel some type of way because they was the lime green joints that could scuff up easy with, you know what I mean? You ain't get the black ones. You got the light green ones. How is this his fault? To the point where you think you should start some sort of argument because he's not paying attention to you and your high expensive shoe choices.
But I hear a correlation, and I apologize.
No, it's all right.
I hear a correlation in regards to responsible gun owners with accountability, maturity. What's the term you say when you're comfortable with yourself? Security.
Yeah.
Right? And discernment.
I don't have to think about this dude when he woke up this morning was like, I am going to destroy Maj's Yeezys. It's not his thought process. His moment is, I'm two-stepping, I'm feeling good, we in a good environment. That's it. It's not fuck everybody's shoes. The safe and responsible gun owner that trains, and the part of the reason for training is, the bad guy gets a say. Just because you train doesn't mean you win the gunfight. And just because you, Maj, got into this club with your gun Why do you think no one else has that potential to do the same thing? Maybe he has his gun. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what did you do in that moment between stimuli and reaction? Us humans have the ability to choose. That space in between there is called your OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, and act. All of that happens between stimuli and reaction. That's all you. So when you recognize and train that it's not like the movies, and if you unfortunately are ever in a gunfight, I've been in 3, they are fucking chaos. I never want to be in one ever again. I've had 3 separate times where someone has tried to murder me. It is not okay. I'm nope, don't want to be there, not interested. I'm going to be prepared. But when you have these different things, when you start taking scenario training with pellet guns and paint balling, and see, bad guy gets a say. Bad guy thinks he's a good guy too. So when you start evaluating from that perspective as you train more, I don't want no smoke. I don't want most gun owners, no. And even if I know, like I go to the gym, I roll on the mats. I'm not the greatest. I roll on the mats. My evaluation of even the skinniest 130-pound dude is totally different. That white boy that looked like a nerd that been practicing in that BJJ octagon for 4 years will fold you the fuck up immediately. I'm super respectful with everything.
But I've learned anyone who's trained has that level of respect because they're aware of what other people can do. And they just don't want it to get to that point if it doesn't have to, because it's not going to work out for all parties involved.
Even if I win, I got to spend bread. I got that lawyer retainer gone. And if I don't ever want to put nobody in the position to play themselves. If you put me in a position where it's me going home to my family and you going home to your family, I'm going home to my family. I've made that decision. You know what I mean? Bruce Lee used to say, if a man is made a decision that he's gonna bite your nose off, you're gonna have problems with him. He's committed to biting your nose off. A committed man is, you mean? So knowing these things is why we 100% advocate for, So in that story, when the dude, after I finished having this thought process, I apologized to him. I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, bro. I want to apologize for putting my foot under your foot." And my even tone, the way that I said it. Oh, damn, because I know it's loud in here. I got to project, but I can't look like I'm yelling. I want to show respect to this man that, for real, think about this. This may be his only release. He's stressing. He having a good time. He ain't got to hear about complaining. He just worked through 2 weeks, no shift off. and he was a black dude. I would have did the same for anybody. But I'm saying there's a specific set of stress that men are under. No one gives a fuck about your feelings generally as a man. I want to give him a certain level of respect as a man. My bad, bro. And he was, oh, damn, no, man, that was my fault. And he literally said, I fucked up, man. I'm in here looking at all these. They in here today, bro. And he was right. My tone isn't, damn, excuse me. It's like a Harry Potter spell. Your tone, you could be saying the same exact thing, and they trying to cast the spell, and one of the tone is off, and instead of them making a casket of money, they turn their friend into a fraud. Your tone was off. These words and the energies behind them, it's literally called it spelling. So, I'm going to cast this spell properly. I'm going to show respect. It's going to be appreciative. It's going to be empathetic. And it went great. It went great. That is what the vast majority of gun owners, in my experience, are. I don't want to shoot shit. Nope. I'm concerned about a motherfucker that is asking for and advocating towards the smoke. I don't want to be around that person. If I can meet that person and reach them and show them a different path, because 9 times out of 10, you haven't seen smoke yet. And if you haven't, it's like taking a youngin to the gym. They got the heart, but you put them in the ring and say, all right, I want you for the next 60 seconds. First of all, jump rope. We're going to give you 12 rounds of 2 minutes of just jumping rope. Just jump rope. You done. Then after that, once you get in this ring, and I'm going to give you 60 seconds of throwing 1-2s. If they're in any way, shape, or form teachable, they're going to start recognizing, like you did, was like, I can't, damn, I'm glad I got this information. I can't do this. I can't do this. They're starting to recognize the things that they physically are incapable of doing. And that develops a certain level of respect for the people that can do these things, the craft that goes into doing those things, and their ability to go, I 100% know that I can fold you up. Not interested in folding you up. I'm more interested in recognizing that the person or the entity that made you think that I'm your enemy is our enemy. There is a propaganda machine fueled by the state, making you think through whatever their investments, making you think that I'm your enemy, and I'm not, and I know it. And since I'm the gun owner, the person that trains, lifts weights, boxes, gets his ass whipped once a week at the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu spot, I am not going to allow that enemy to make that propaganda work through you on me. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And just because you're ignorant about it does not mean that I'm going to allow that propaganda to operate through you and me not do everything within my power to avoid that situation, because your daughter needs you. And if I blow your top smooth the fuck off, if I put 3 in you center mass, if I take you to Mozambique with a Mozambique drill, 2 to the chest, 1 to the head, your daughter is not going to understand none of that. And that's not what our people need. That's not what our communities need. That's not what America needs. That's not what the world needs. Our common enemy is an overreaching government. And I'm not going to let nobody take me off my square on some petty, whatever. And these are the types of conversations that people don't hear from gun owners, especially the ones that look like me.
How do plea deals contribute to the disdain citizens have for gun ownership in America?
How do plea deals contribute to the disdain? Plea deals are a trick. I'm fighting a gun case right now. I was jumped out on by the police. They offered me a plea deal. I said no. We're going to take this to trial. Plea deals are the government's way of, they know that they're overcharging because it's a money-making scheme. My bail was $75,000. I paid $7,500. I get out. That's ransom. That's what it is. A plea deal is between your attorney and the district attorney, and the judge does not have to honor it. And if you accept this plea deal and the judge honors it, dishonors it, or does not honor it, you also, in most instances, waive your right to an appeal. So it's a way of keeping the machine going without everything going to trial, because they know that they charging too many people with too many things. Crime has to produce a victim. If I sell weed and you want the weed, never mind the fact that the founding fathers smoked a lot of weed and grew hemp and things like that, that is not a crime. That's called commerce. It's called unlawful because the state says we want to tax it and control it because the government is a mafia. So they know that they're charging people with all of these so-called crimes. And if everybody took everything to trial, it would clog up the judicial system. So what do? They say, we're going to come up with this concept called a plea deal, where everyone won't go to court. That's one of the things that they'll say. They'll say, well, you won't even have to go to court. Just agree to this. You get a little bit of probation. Don't worry about it. Generally. And then that person says, okay, because they're tired. They don't want to fight. The fight is not for just you. The fight is for the overall concept of constitutionality. The fight is for the human right to exist without the government just saying, we had a commercial transaction and you thinking that you're... Illegal is when something violates a person's body or property. Unlawful is when a person does something that violates a statute that the government says, we don't want you to do this. 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, 30 years ago, you go to jail for weed, hardcore. It's still Scheduled 1 federally. They say heroin and weed is the same thing on a federal level. But the states are like, come on, bro, this is stupid, right? So that speaks to the contradiction. It was never a crime. No one was violated. This person wanted the weed. This person had the weed. You got the money. I got the weed. Same thing as a transaction at the bar. But because they come up with all of these different things that they want to call so-called illegal or unlawful, now they got to overcharge people, charge them with criminal offenses, then convince them not to go to court to prove how this is wrong. So they introduce plea deals. Now, how it comes to plea deals as it relates to gun owners is someone pleads and someone that does an actual crime. And they got a good lawyer and they say, well, we'll plea the gun case away. If you take this plea deal, we'll drop this case. We'll drop this part of the case or these charges. That person goes, okay, cool. Then if that person was actually a bad person that shot somebody with a gun and they didn't die, or they shot in the air and whatever, then media then says, this guy's a revolving door. These guys are light on crime. These guys are blah, 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 because they accepted a plea deal and you let him back out. I am of the belief that if the person didn't use this tool to violate somebody's property or body, it shouldn't be a charge in the first place. If I carry a chainsaw on my hip and never chop anybody up with it, imagine a cop running up and going, hey, what you doing with that chainsaw? Make it smaller, because some people go, well, that is weird, a chainsaw. Okay, what if it's a screwdriver? I could stab you in your eye with a screwdriver, but I haven't. So if somebody goes, oh, he had a weapon on him, that's stupid.
Listening to you, man, it just seems that the idea surrounded about guns leads people to think guns are just used for a particular thing. It's more an aggressive approach more than a defensive approach.
Yeah, they have to do that because they have to also present themselves as the government, the state. They have to make themselves look like the moral authority. They have to make the people, if you're not a police officer, you're not military, thank you for your service. If you're not one of them, then you must have this for a bad intent. Never mind that I live in a rough neighborhood and I have it to defend myself against the actual people with bad intent. And there's far few amounts of those bad people than good people, far fewer. But they have to spin the narrative that way. No way that just this young black dude can be training to defend life for the same reason why I got a first aid kit right there in that bag. If I go out of here and there's a car accident, I want to get busy. I want a tourniquet, seal compression, whatever I need to do to seal and stop that bleed until, medical professionals get there. That's the reason why I carry that. The same reason why I carry a firearm. That is how we were successful with Black Guns Matter, by shifting that narrative. Nobody now, very few people now are highlighting dumb things that happen with firearms. We have seriously impacted the culture and made a paradigm shift. There's videos of even Will Smith when he was filming Bad Boys, whatever number that was, with Martin Lawrence, the most recent one, where somebody was picking up the fake guns and about to sweep somebody, meaning put the muzzle of the gun in front of other people. That's breaking one of the basic 4 rules of firearm safety. And there's a video Will Smith smacked the dude's hand down and showed him. He cleared the gun, locked the slide back, and gave him a little brief joint. And it was all over the internet. That is now the dominant theme as it relates to firearms ownership in urban America. That is the dominant theme. The power of that is, it's not just because we trained hundreds of thousands of people over the last few years. That's not what it was. It's not that we, because I didn't train an additional 10 million people. We shifted the culture. That's with the power of the internet. That's the power of these long format media discussions. It's the power of somebody going, the people that's watching this will go, damn, I didn't think about it that way. That is the reason why that devil is smart to shift or attempt to make the narrative be one way. I would do the same thing if I was a devil. I 100% respect that chess move. The problem is if the people aren't asking solid questions and seeking information, because it's out there, it's more and more prominent. If we're not asking, damn, why is every damn movie, why they only give the bad guys full auto? In all of the movies, they only give the bad guys full auto. Then they say, if you got full auto, oh, it's a bad thing. Why? Why is it that in most of the movies, if you're an urban dude, you're going to shoot the gun sideways? Who told y'all that this is a thing? Why in the movies, if it's international movies, why all of the bad guys, like the shooters, are always it's called Rabs, Russians, Arabs, or villains? Why? Who told us that? Why is it that when it's a European villain, he's supposedly high class and speaks with why? This is propaganda. That same propaganda there is also saying there cannot be a safe and responsible hood dude that's willing to lead with empathy, that's willing to present facts to our community and apply solutions together to preserve and protect our communities. There's propaganda that says if I do that and I'm not, if I'm not a Democrat, I'm a libertarian. Oh, you must be down with it. When I go to the Republican conventions, when I speak on Frederick Douglass right before Donald Trump at CPAC, no one talks about me saying, hey, here's Frederick Douglass. Here's how he was a patriot. He happened to be a Republican. No one wants to talk about that. But I challenge everyone to ask yourself and question, why am I not questioning? And when we start doing that, that's when we speed up those paradigm shifts and create a whole different praxis.
For people listening, there's a book called Stop Helping Us, How Liberals Make It Harder for Blacks to Succeed by a brakeman called Jason L. Riley, right? I wanted to ask you, I heard you speak about this elsewhere. What are race narratives and why do you say they are harming the Black community?
I'm good with race narratives when it packages and controls people to do excellent things. The problem is most race-based narratives paint the person of whatever race as they're evil or ignorant or both, right? So let me do white people first, right? Because people will say, oh, you just black, da-da-da-da, right? In all of the movies, right, the slave movies, they make it seem like every single white person owned black people. Mathematically impossible. 2, they make it seem like every single white person was demonic. Come on, dude. So even the babies are like, get out of here, nigger. It's come on, bro. At a certain point, this is a narrative to make. So I understand why some white people is like, damn, bro, that's not me. And I get it. Now, before people try to shuffle me into the coon zone, right? He's taking up for white people, right? The same thought process applies to black people. If you're pushing a narrative that this one race of people are only this way all the time, right? Even if it's liberal, they oh, they the white liberal, they kind of racist too because they white liberal. I see it in all of the black shows too. I just started watching Insecure and I saw it all throughout that show. It's still a psychological operation. It's still a narrative. But let's go to the black people. And I'll do some other groups too, because it's a propaganda tactic. You go to black people. Black culture is supposedly ratchet, ignorant, overly sexual. That is generally white liberals' portrayal through media of black people. That's not black people. Now, do we have a great time and is there drums and but my white homies in North Philly get down with that song white people are going to get excited when the intro by Meek Mill comes on. Period. It's going to happen. Black people are going to get excited when Smells Like Teen Spirit from Nirvana comes on. Period. There are certain cultural things that are going to happen with high energy songs. That is a human characteristic. When the media then says this one particular group is only, or on the majority side, this, That's when that narrative becomes damaging. I'm not mad if television is the program, because it's programming, is like all gun owners are super safe and responsible, empathetic beings. I'm okay with that narrative. It's a narrative, it's an agenda. And I'll also advocate and say, well, a lot of us are, but them dudes over there are very unsafe, so stay away from them. I'm always going to find and express to the balance. Those narratives are put there to keep people in a box. Boxed people, depressed people, not empowered people are much easier to control. A confident, holistic, well-adjusted, and happy person, that person's generally going to be a leader, and not because they just want to be like the person. That person's going to create more leaders. So if I can get you to believe, when you start learning more about how the brain and programming and how eyes receive information, this is going into like psychology and the brain and the mind. Do you know that the same synapses, when you're hooked up to like an encephalograph or like them joints that have the lights going off on the screen when they hook them up to your brain, the same electrical impulses go off when you're doing a thing and when you're imagining doing a thing. So in the movie The Matrix, Neo said, what's real is just electrical impulses received by your mind. Television is a signal, a program of electrical things that are going to be received by your mind. So if I tell you this program, and words are spelling, it's a television program, it's telling you the same thing over and over and over again. And there's like 3 companies that control all of the programming. And we have a vested interest in making you believe this, even though it's this amount of people doing it. It's like when people say Philly's a rough place. It is, because it's this amount of bad guys doing bad things. The vast majority of 1.3 million, 1 to 3 to 1.6 million people are just regular people trying to enjoy their life. But TV told you that when you come to Philly, you're going to get robbed. And generally, that's not the case. It is a narrative. There's an unseen hand that has a different propaganda technique for different groups of people. So they go to the whites, it's the blacks, right? They go to the blacks, it's the whites, right? And that may be true on small levels, but you know what them unseen hands never say? It's us, the government and the state and the high level people that have a vested interest in international control, right? That part of the story never gets told.
And one of the big problems too, when they generalize, they don't acknowledge so much subcultures within cultures. Because a lot of time they say black culture, but there's so many subcultures within black cultures.
Right. Are you talking about hip hop culture?
Yeah,
Are you talking about jazz culture? Like black culture. I said this on the Candace Owens show when I did her show, which I got beat up for. Why are you talking with her? Wait, I thought the pro-black side of the room got mad at me. I'm like, because she's a black woman. I thought you were pro-black. Did I say anything on the show that you were like, he's selling us out? No.
I think with our modern times, it's not even the message, it's the association now. They don't even listen to the message again, bro. I mentioned that earlier. It's the association.
So when I was on her show, we talked about what's black culture. To me, what black culture is the Cosby Show. Hardworking dad, hardworking mom, raising their family. Black is not synonymous with poverty. First of all, especially if you're talking about black American, you go to Jamaica. When I'm in Kingston, when I go to other places, when I go to white places sometimes in Europe, that's poor. I'm sorry, bro. Do you know globally, to be a part of, I heard Jordan Peterson say this. I think he might have been talking to Patrick Bet David. Patrick Bet David, stop pretending like you don't want to have this conversation too, bro. We DM'd a few times. Cut it out, Patrick. If you really try to have a real conversation, let's do it. Him and Jordan Peterson were going back and forth, and Jordan Peterson said, globally, to be a part of the 1%, if you're in American currency, you have to make $32,000 a year. In America, to be a part of the 1%, you have to make like over $500,000 a year. That's not a lot of money. I've given away more than $500,000. Raised it and given it away. So there's even that notion of, the 1%. It's not just based on you making a good living for yourself. These nuances of conversation, to your point, a person has to pay attention to see how these things are being unpacked. So when we're talking about subcultures and cultures within culture, hip hop is a good umbrella for that. Hip hop, when it was started, you had so-called conscious hip hop, reality rap that then got turned into this thing called gangster rap. You had party rap. You had LL Cool J was, I'm making music for girls, bro. You know, all of these can coexist under the umbrella of hip hop culture. Hip hop culture is black culture. This does not mean that it's consumed mostly by black people. It's not. 50 Cent's first album that came out the gate was 16 million records sold. It was not largely sold just to black people. There's a lot of Eminem. Come on. So Eminem, anyone that says that Eminem is not hip hop culture, you are out of your mind. But we have to make sure that we're arguing these perspectives from a nuanced and intelligent position, and which is very difficult to do. And I'm Twitter blue now, so I could type as much as I want. But when you're generally doing it in 240 characters, it's very difficult. And when you've conditioned people to only talk and communicate from headlines, not read the whole article, pull quotes, clickbait, it becomes very difficult. There's no one that's going to listen to this conversation and say, this dude is tap dancing for whatever. It's impossible. It's impossible. Now, if you take some of the things that I said out of context and do it that way, it's 100% possible. I saw them do that to Donald Trump the last time I was in the White House. I seen it. I was like, oh shit. It's the phrase where he talked about, he said, African Americans built this nation. Donald Trump, as the president. African Americans built this nation. I don't know if you're getting if you know that or not. I just think now that you're just starting to get some of the credit that you deserve for it. He said, we all built it, but African Americans had a special hand in building our nation. I go out, I leave the spot, I walk over to the hotel. I sit at the bar to get a drink. Maybe 20 minutes later, because his camera's already there. By the time I get there, I saw them chop and screw it was an hour-long presentation. I saw them, of course, that never made it to the internet, or at least on CNN. This is my point of saying how those narratives are, you got to understand each one of those subcultures. In Philly, we are very direct and aggressive with the people that we love. Somebody from outside of Philly might think we arguing. When we just talking about how our favorite two basketball players, somebody else might be like, are they about to fight? You got to understand these subcultures. And black culture is a big umbrella. We create different jazz did not exist before black people in America. It didn't exist. We made it. Hip hop did not exist. We created and then created genres within the genre. That's the power of being a creator, of being a creative. That's a God power. And, so some people that happen to be black are ignorant. Some people that happen to be black are steeped in a culture of intelligence and intelligentsia. And that's their culture.
We need to stop this whole absolute thing. Where it's like one person to go to the extreme and say, oh no, all black people are kings and queens. Then we on the other side where everybody killing and ratchet. And then we have to acknowledge there are people like that, and there are people like that, bro.
Right.
And that's the reality of it with everyone.
That's the reason why people are afraid to have nuanced, long format conversations. My power is translating and simplifying. And I use examples, my anecdotal lived experience, other people.
Film. I know she uses film
Movies.
a lot.
Oh, I'm a movie buff. I'm 100% because movies is how we download information and go. We can apply. Even when I look at different character types of different people, there's some people that right now look like they're leaders for black people. Social media makes it look like that. But I've already tested their character, and I'm like, you're not a good character in this movie. All of the villains present themselves as philanthropists and doing stuff. You're not a good character. You know what I'm saying? You're not of good character. That's why long format is so key, and that's a part of the reason why we have to. One of the things that we teach in our classes with conflict resolution is slowing down. Let's just process this for a second. When you stop and think, it might be 10 seconds, but as you're thinking in your head, 10 seconds is a long time. I want you to fully go through your OODA loop. As you train, your OODA loop will speed up. Again, OODA loop being observe, orient, decide, and act. None of that says knee-jerk reaction. I'm observing. If you're training, I'm observing from way over there. So before this even get to me, I'm able to observe. That look like some bad energy over there. Not going over there. I've observed. I've oriented myself in relation to that. I'm over here. That's over there. I've decided that that's not the place for me to go towards, and I'm going to act and go the other way. When you slow down and think, especially when you're used to just consuming so much, and so much is being thrown at us. When you're consuming so much, it's easy to just take it in and accept it as gospel truth, especially when it's from a person that you like. I see this a lot on the conservative pundit side. You know what I mean? I see dudes that aren't really conservative, but they get to use that word. You know, you're not about limited government. You're asking for more police. That's not conservative. You have not advocated on any of your famous platforms behind them paywalls. You have not advocated once for Congress to create a budget and rein in the spending. You were okay with Donald Trump, who gave more than anybody towards the military-industrial complex. That is not conservative. That's expanding the government. Just because it's a person that you like does not mean that you shouldn't stop and think about, well, I agree. I liked when Donald Trump was in office because of his ability to negotiate and get better prices. He ran the government like a business. I do not like his position on the Second Amendment. He was horrible. A politician is there to do a job, just like a plumber. And so our level of being capable of objectively analyzing things moment to moment, question to question, scenario to scenario, I like the person more as more of these scenarios that I'm objectively analyzing, they come out on it in the constitutional, limited government, respect for individual rights way. There's only like 5 of those consistent politicians on a national level that I can be like, yeah, Ron Paul, who's not a politician anymore, Thomas Massey, Larry Sharp, 4. And so when somebody gets it right, I go, he got it right there. I mean, over time, when they get it right a lot, Ron Paul has been right for 40 years. Government overspending is bad. We need to at least audit the Fed instead of just, if not just getting rid of it. Decentralize the money supply. Government is too big. Da-da-da-da. Ba-ba-ba-ba. Ba-ba-ba-ba. Hot streak, 40 years. I like that guy. Somebody was right this, I like Trump when he's negotiating with OPEC, oil producing nations, to get that lower price. That's no different than if I worked for the big homie and he can negotiate with the essays to get the price for lower, and that means I get more points on the pack. I like how he doing it. It's a better negotiation. He's got more respect. He gonna get a better price. We all eat better. I like that for a Trump. I don't like that he promoted Operation Warp Speed with the jab. He still acts as if that was a good thing. It's not. I don't like that his position of take the guns first, due process later. That's unconstitutional. I don't like the adding of bump stocks. And fortunately, the Supreme Court overturned that. It's a contradiction. You're supposed to be endorsed by the NRA. The NRA isn't as pro-gun as people think they are. So the objective ability to think from a nuanced perspective is what we have to make sure that we're 100% aligning to. My highest alignment is to that truth. No, I don't follow any of these unconstitutional government should take your money shit. No, it's wrong. It's wrong. It's immoral. And the whole argument about, oh, well, who would pay for what? Well, how did we do it before 1913 when the IRS, the income tax was presented? That's when the vast majority of them roads was being built in the first place. So we have to step back and evaluate, especially urban America. We got to step back and evaluate all of the things that you've been taught about these politics and policies, especially as it relates to, more specifically, when it comes to your ability to defend yourself. Because on one hand, they say all of the cops is racist. The government and the system is racist. Okay, I can understand why you say that. So why you only want them to have the guns? That doesn't make sense. And that argument is more associated with the liberal position. My argument of you should take individual responsibility for your personal protection and don't outsource that to the government that you just said was racist. That's more identified, not just with a well-balanced young dude's perspective. It's more associated with a more right of center perspective. But that same system that you propping up that told you that the people that's saying we want less government, they told you that they racist, but the people that you tap dancing or speaking they talking points, they telling you you should have more government involved in your life while you just said the system is racist. It's backwards. The power is the ability of the people to translate that to people over these airwaves and get people to understand that I don't gotta be right next to you to share this information. I can serve the people third person. You know what I mean? And that's the power. That's why they're very, very afraid. And if they weren't afraid, that book, Please Stop Helping Us. You're not helping us. You're there pretending like you're helping us. And the reason why you're going to stay there helping us is because if you leave us alone, we'll find our own equilibrium.
You brought up the book again. I thought about something. What are your views with them being soft on crime leading to more dangerous neighborhoods?
I don't think they're soft on crime. I think they're trying to not look racist so they can get their racist agenda off. I think that crime should be punished. Crime has a very specific definition. If people don't know the definition or are calling things that are not crime, then they're going to look soft on crime. If I have a possession of a firearm charge and I violated no one, I didn't point the gun at nobody, I didn't take it out, I didn't shoot anybody, I didn't rob anybody, I didn't use it in the commission of taking somebody's stuff or raping, that's not a crime. Because they can try to convince people that it is a crime, then when they throw the case out, they be like, all right, we'll do a plea deal. Go back to the plea deal thing. We'll do a plea deal. Then this side of the bird on the wing says, see, they're soft on crime. You shouldn't even be advocating for that to be classified as a crime in the first place. If you're on the right, so-called right of center, you know that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So you know that wasn't a crime in the first place. But you playing along to their thing, calling it crime, when you like, they're not soft on crime. That wasn't a crime. They shouldn't have charged them in the first place for that. But people don't think like that. They just want to act like they're doing something. Instead of doing actually something, they say that other side is wrong. This is why the real crime happens, because they're soft on crime. See this guy? He had a gun possession charge and they pleaded that away. It wasn't supposed to be a charge in the first place, conservative, because you're supposed to believe in limited government and you're supposed to believe in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Which one is it? I'm not even having a conversation about that. Yeah, well, where you soft on crime is somebody rapes somebody, somebody robs somebody, someone damages someone's property, somebody shoots someone unjustifiably, and their life was not in imminent danger. It can be usually summed up when you're not trying to make an economy off of crime. It can be usually summed up as robbery, rape, unjustifiable killing, and maybe some property crimes. That four little area, usually each one of those has little sections under it, but usually that's what you can say is a crime. Me carrying the actual gun, who's the victim? Robbery has a victim. Destroying somebody's property has a victim. Raping somebody has a victim. Stealing somebody's money has a victim. Me carrying I can bash somebody to death with a piece of glass. Me carrying it on my person because I wanted some aquapana in a glass bottle. Tell me, where's the crime?
So when it people who argue against this, when they say because you have the gun, I understand you said you can kill someone with a lot of items, but the gun, see, it comes back to the wording again. I have to be careful how I say it, because I can't say the gun was created to kill. Was the gun created to, what was the purpose of the creation of the gun? And I'm asking, I'm just saying that's an argument, right? But they're saying, I guess the ability to take a life is much quicker with a firearm than with other items. It could be true, it could be false, but couldn't that be an argument for some people?
That could be an argument. Their argument is wrong. They could say that. They could say, well, with a gun, you could kill people quickly. Okay. Is
the other things you kill people
right?
quickly.
Somebody last week ran a car into 7 people in New York and ran them over. When are we asking for? It would be silly for us to say we need more automobile legislation. It's already there. Evil is going to do evil regardless of the tool, right? When someone says that, my question to them becomes, is it about the death being prevented, or is it about you getting your point off that you just don't like guns? Because if we're talking about it for real, the American government is the only government that has used nuclear arms to destroy and murder a bunch of people twice. Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Are we advocating for the American government to de-arm in a nuclear fashion? I might, but where's the smoke for that?
But then on another level, now that you're talking, like, shouldn't we have a whole movement to have government put more pressure on companies to make healthier food? Because isn't that like...
It's a never-ending thing.
Yeah. So
there's so many foods in America that are banned internationally. Now, I'm also a fan of freedom. You can shoot heroin if you want to in my world. What I would prefer is to educate you about, this is what happens when you take heroin. Do you still want to take it? If heroin, because heroin is another one that, or there's an opioid pandemic or epidemic, right? Especially in Philly, Kensington, Frankfurt, all of that is zombie land over there. And when I say I'm against the war on drugs, all it has done was target my community for nonviolent transactions. That's all. You can't say that and say drugs are bad. And then every year you have hundreds of thousands of people dying from cigarettes, cigars, I smoke cigars, and alcohol. That happens. So clearly it's not about health. No, you just want to control the trade, and it's harder for you to control the drug trade. So you come up with rules to stop people from making a killing from controlling the drug trade. Now, those people will say, well, damn, do you want everybody to just be on drugs? And what I would say to them is, if heroin was legal tomorrow, would you take it? Most people are like, hell no. Right, because you know what heroin does to you. If it was legal, only thing that would happen is the state would stop making money off of locking people up for selling it and using it. That's all. There would not be a massive new amount of people that decide to say, you know what, now that it's legal, heroin is for me. These arguments are never fully thought of. And as it relates to guns, it's like, okay, there's over 20,000 gun laws across America, state to state. 20,000. Has it stopped the 60% of those that are suicides? Then, when this person says, we want to make it harder to get a gun, they're not talking about, they usually use school shootings or so-called mass shootings as the example. And they say, well, we got to stop these school shootings. School shootings make up, and death is death, and I'm not advocating for it. They make up less than 1% of all shootings. They never have the conversation about making these young people feel whole, the 60% that's suicides. So if I was trying to stop more death, I would think I would start at the 60% target-rich environment, pun intended, as opposed to the less than 1%. They want to scare people in those scenarios to make them vote into things that are in opposition to their own human rights. And they're not looking at, they doing the like 3-card money joint. They're not looking over here. They distracting you over here with this. But if I said to people, I have a way to stop 60% of the rapes in America. Never mind the fact that we ignore the fact that a lot of rape happens in jail. But men, fuck men, we don't care about those dudes in jail, right? But if I said I have a way to make 60% of the rapes in America stop, but let's focus on the smallest amount of rapes that happen. Everybody will look at me like I'm retarded. They will go, dude, what's wrong with you? You just go after the 60%. We can save a lot of women from being raped. And I go, no. I only want to focus. We're focusing on legislation that makes it a hate crime to rape women over 65 years old. Because we have to do something. Everybody be like, yo, that's backwards. That doesn't help. It's already, no, we got to make more legislation. And we're going to make rape for women over 65 years old. We're going to also make that a federal hate crime. Then those people will go, bro, it's already against the law to rape people. Why are you making more laws for this small amount of people? You said you had the answer to 60% of the rape. Insert rape for guns. I have a way to make 60% of the people. That's why we created the Solutionary Center, to make these young people and these people in general have a viable option to their life and a holistic approach to adding value to their life. Because if that person that was thinking about putting the gun in their mouth, they knew that tomorrow $100,000 was coming and they had a new job and they was going to give you the $100,000 up front, the vast majority of those people would not take their life. So if we make these people feel whole, yoga, changing their diet, giving them a trade, giving them a skill set, creating space for them for job opportunities, informing them about civics, helping giving them their lives purpose, we could get rid of some of that, a big chunk of that 60%. But you want me to talk about the less than 1%, and you want to add legislation that doesn't address the 60% and just makes me a criminal for owning a firearm. Anybody that can't see it when explained that way, you don't want to see it. They are lying to you. They are lying. The beauty for me is I just was able at a young age to recognize freedom on different levels and recognize the attack on freedom on different levels. Of course you don't want Harriet Tubman to have a gun. Of course you don't. Of course, when John Brown, the white dude that's saying slavery ain't cool and I'm killing every slave master. Of course you don't want me to paint him as a freedom fighter. Of course you don't. For whatever your bias, your reason is, of course you don't. Of course you don't want me to say John Brown had the utmost respect for Frederick Douglass. Of course you don't want me to say Frederick Douglass was the best conservative that I've ever heard of or seen in my life. If your argument is conservatism is a white thing, whether you're white or black or anything in between, of course you don't want me to say that because it's making this thing be freedom and justice for all. And some people just don't want that. And a lot of those people are in positions of so-called public service. And they don't want people like me articulating this from a perspective that's undeniable. I don't lose this argument. There's no way to argue against it. You would almost have to say, this is why those media outlets would just ignore me. It's smart. You would almost have to say, we don't want a holistic approach to defending life. We want more government in these spaces that we just told everybody that is 100% racist. And the police, every cop is going to kill you. We just told them that. We repeated that narrative to get different funding, to get you all to finance Black Lives Matter Incorporated. And that money went to Act Blue, which got funneled into the Democratic Party's push of Joe Biden. We don't want you to talk about that. We want to tell you that it's racist, so you just make symbolic gestures. We don't want to tell you the real racism, gun control, the real racism, great book, The Color of Law, the real racism, the lack of school choice, real racism, prison industrial complex. We don't want to talk about that because we got emotional and financial investments there. We absolutely cannot have this young, handsome, in-shape dude that's willing to be courageous and brave breaking these things down using scholars on the subject matter. The Color of Law was written by a white Jewish dude, which literally breaks down how they use racism to segregate communities and how that had economic impact based on the home ownership or the lack thereof. Yeah, we don't want him talking about that. Just make him the scary black dude with the guns. That'll show him. It's so smart. I respect the devil.
Unfortunately, many black people live in an environment not conducive for a healthy mind, right? Do you believe a lot of the black on black crime that takes place is caused by unchecked mental illness?
I believe that the phrase black on black crime is a psyop. So I'll answer the question with the caveat of asking the viewers to question, why have they never heard of the term white on white crime? Spanish on Spanish crime. Crime is proximity. An Asian dude that's a bad Asian dude is going to violate some Asian people close to him. It's proximity. As far as a lot of the crime that happens because of mental health issues, I think it's mental health issues. I think that there's not an accident that like is not fruits and vegetables in hoods across America. Last week I was the brother Yaki was at he came to the Solutionary Center a couple of weeks back, and then a few days ago he was at the Met in Philly. Shouts to Yaki and the whole Awakening team. And we talked about, I used to take these workshops with Dr. Laila Africa years ago. Rest in peace to Dr. Laila Africa.
We gotta talk about that later.
Yeah. This is a designed format to make sure that certain foods are in certain areas. If you're white and live in a low income area, your food is fucked. If you're Spanish, like it's a socio-economic thing. It's not an accident that Whole Foods is A, usually in certain areas, and B, expensive as hell. And a lot of the things in Whole Foods you don't need either. So the mentality of a person that is subjected to that science experiment, you're going to have a different outcome. For the last week or so, I was just eating fruits and vegetables. Just because I was like, I'm just focused on fruits and vegetables. Just to put more life back into my body. And I went to go buy a watermelon.
There ain't no seeds.
There ain't no seeds. I had to search for, and I bought like 3 of them. Because when I found them, I was like, oh. So this place was calling these are organic watermelons, but they didn't have seeds. So to think that one does not correlate to the other, it's called the Food and Drug Administration. Why would you ever put those two together? So to act like there's not an impact on that, and that's just one lane, that's just the food. Then you're talking about the television shows. Then you're talking about the psychology of attempt to make your life matter less through the programming. To say, it's okay to say, I'ma kill a nigga, I'ma kill a nigga, I'ma kill a nigga all day. Only people that can't say it is white people, because it's like right? But we want you black people to say, I'ma kill a nigga, I'ma kill a nigga. That's standard. It's hypnosis. But if I made a song that said, I'ma kill a, insert whatever other slur, insert them all. I'ma kill a kike, I'ma kill a spick, I'ma kill a chink, I'ma kill a this, I'ma kill a guap, I'ma kill a, insert whatever. Kike. Then everyone attacks you. It's okay to make money off of the programming that promotes death and destruction. Meek said it a few weeks ago. He was like, on some stage, he was like, they pay us more to talk about negative things. So to think that repetition, these are scientifically proven concepts. Repetition works. When you're learning something, you read it over and over again. That's how we learn our alpha, beta, kappas, right? This works to put a thing into somebody's brain. Marketing, they say you need to see something at least 9 times before it really takes. So they're going to put it in your brain a whole bunch. So the science is already settled that this works. So these programs, along with the diet, along with telling somebody, along with the television saying, hold the gun sideways if you have this much melanin. If you're Russian or Arab, you got to have a full auto and you got to have a beard and you the villain and blah, 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 blah. All of this programming happens. And we think that that does not have an outcome on our daily routine. That's wild. The fact that I have to think about what propaganda has been put on this person's brain when I'm engaging them is just a counterbalance to the propaganda that's been put on their brain. So I have to think, my response to this person in the club that steps on my Yeezy slides, I know that there's a potential that this person may have been conditioned by that litany, that holistic approach to make this person a zombie. So much so that when someone says or speaks to loving themselves, we associate that with corny or lame or this or that. So much so that when someone says, I would prefer that you not call me a nigga. So much so that when I say I'm a god, we don't ask why. We don't say, what do you mean by that? We don't go to the Bible that they say they study and Jesus said, do you not know that ye are gods? We don't factor in none of that. We just go, we've been told it's okay for me to call you my dog. It's okay to call you a lower being. It's not okay to say I see the God in you. If we think that that's not impacting, we're going to ignore all of the science that's been settled. And we think that that doesn't have a political, spiritual, economic, moral, and potentially violent outcome. We crazy. We're crazy. It 100% impacts it. You know what I listen to? A lot of classical music. I love hip hop. I have a filtration system though. There's jokes where people say, yo, you be in the car listening to music on your way to work, ready to quit and sell keys. Yeah, because the music's designed to make you do that. You know what it don't say? It don't say, I want you to open up, man, I found the block. I knew a new location. I made a Bitcoin ATM, put it there, got money, passive income. We don't say that smooth. And it can be wrapped in a very smooth way, especially if you got all of the same stuff. If you got a Bentley, the big Cuban, the whatever, and now there's no risk in me going to jail for this. All of the rappers talk about guns. Why the fuck don't none of y'all got a Glock deal? I had a gun deal. I had a rifle. It was called a Solutionary rifle. We sold them. They're gone. So that's an opportunity for free market enterprise. But we haven't been conditioned to say that. Yo, I got the gun to protect my turf, protect the ATM machines, the whatever way you want to rap about it. I got the gun to protect my house from the government. Tupac shot 2 off-duty police officers that were trying to kill him. But you're only allowed to talk about things a certain way. And it impacts the outcome because the whole goal was to produce crime. Crime pays. Crime pays. When you get convinced by the government in conjunction with big media, big pharma, Food and Drug Administration, all tied in together. Again, Vivendi owns Seagram's. That's a spirits company. What's one of the biggest hits? Pastor Cavassier. Every few years, they got a new liquor for you to drink. Every few years. It went from, it used to be Nouveau, remember them pink bottles? It go all the way back to Malibu when my mom was young. You know what I'm saying? Then it fast forward all the way through there. So are we done with you, Diddy?
We got Malibu, Hypnotic, you got Patron. What were the big names? Then you had
Ciroc.
Then Bacardi, Smirnoff.
Now it's Casamigos. Seagram's. Vivendi. And you're not complaining about them. You know why? Because they're a French company and they over there in France. But you arguing about the label. Not seeing that bigger picture. So it's a wonderful chess game. When are we going to listen to people and support financially the people that's putting you on in the real game?
And the reason I brought up the mental health thing is because a lot of times we speak about crime and certain things, but until we have a healthier environment, even with the change in legislation, how can we change the behaviors of people if they're in that environment.
You change the things in the environment. That makes a change in the environment. So when I say I want a community center, I'm not just getting a gym with some laptops in it. We teach yoga. I want you to slow down and breathe. Most people don't even breathe properly. They don't breathe from their diaphragm, breathe from their chest. Most people never I'm not saying you gotta be a vegetarian. I'm gonna destroy a steak at some point this weekend. I mean, but okay, what about grass-fed beef? What about a Wagyu that's been cured properly as opposed to sprayed? And even all of those choices can be more healthy choices made. We working with the sister Sarah that runs Nourish. We're going to start doing some juicing options and teaching people how to make juices and what they do at the Solutionary Center. I didn't just want a basketball court. I wanted to approach this thing, your diet, what you watching, what you listening to. You know, sewing. We talk about people being conservative. As soon as your shirt get a hole in it, you just throw it away. It's not very conservative. I can just try to sew this up. And just boom, I'm gonna have it for, okay, maybe the stitch is there. Let me sew a patch of something cool. I found this patch at the thrift store. Let me put that on the hole right here on the t-shirt. Give it a whole nother life. Conserve it. You know what I mean? These are the things that we change the thought process by change. Those are conservative values. Those are liberty-based values. The more conservative way of viewing it is, we can change the world by changing ourselves and changing our family by right knowledge and right information, right? And that holistic, whichever way that happens in all of the areas of human activity. And by changing the family, we change our neighborhood, we change our community. And that's all change without legislation. The liberal perspective is they believe that they're changing the world for the better, but they want to use the government and the state to force people to do it. They want a top-down approach, as opposed to us in the trenches changing ourselves, changing our environment, changing the people around us. And then the politics is downstream of culture. But when you have a group of people that separate, that don't know that politics is downstream from culture, and they've been conditioned to separate their culture, their politics, and their economics, the strongest communities in America, they don't have to vote as much because they can influence politics by their dollars, because they connect that triangle. They connect their politics, their economy, and their culture. So that's how you change the environment. To be a solutionary means you're going down this rabbit hole. We have a site, solutionaryuniversity.org, where we're making available high-level individuals that speak to these things, practical ways that teach you, here's this master teacher on this, finance. Not me, because I ain't got $100 million, so I'm not qualified to tell you about building an empire that way, right? But okay, we will have this brother on. We will have this brother talking about healing and the foods that can do that. We will have this person talking about special forces level protection of CQB, right? We will have this woman on talking about how to curate a safe, healthy environment in your home. That Solutionary University is how we change the internal environment. And we're doing that in real time in the actual Solutionary Center in Philly. By doing it that way, I don't need to change the location. I need to change the things and mentalities that are in the environment, thus changing the environment. And so that's how we do it. And after we do this and show some consistency, then now we got a proof of concept. Now let's do one in Chicago. This approach is not just guns. It cannot be. You know what I mean? The attack on us, again, is, as Dr. Francis Cress Welsing says, is in every area of human activity. Education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war, all of these different things is where the war is being waged. I want the people to just recognize that and start financially putting some money. That's a shameless plug on my part too. Putting some money behind the people, because all of the classes are free. You know, the ones online are $20 for the, specific classes. But my point is, even at $20, why wouldn't you want to spend $20 to educate yourself and your family about this tool that you just purchased that you obviously don't know anything about? It makes sense. And so we have to stop just saying things. It's like when I hear white people, racists, call black people the N-word, nigga this, nigga that, or black people calling white people cracker, that's nothing. That's name calling. Like, what? You can, like me? You can't even hurt my feelings. Like calling me a name. Oh, you called me a grifter. You called me a racist. Where you can impact me is if you could actually stop me. When we are supporting each other in the financial space with the people that have shown and proved their level of worth to do the work and serve our communities, those people are worthy of our support. And until we start doing that, whether they're a public servant, politician that's going to be in alignment with defending your individual liberties and defending that constitution that benefits you, and telling people that would say, well, you know, they didn't mean that for the black people. Yes, they did. And even if they didn't mean it, it's for them now. When you have that type of public servant that's willing to go to bat, there's very few of them. And if we finance that public servant that's going to defend our individual rights and liberty, because that's what we send them to DC or whatever position for, then you start to make all of the other politicians, if he got $10 million in fundraising because he's an actual public servant, the other politicians will go, well, shit, maybe I should start talking that liberty shit because he got $10 million in his war chest. That's where we should be utilizing our resources to champion and support the people that are actually serving our communities. Just talking about it, just calling out racism, just saying the left is racist or the right is racist, it's all nothing. That's nothing. That's a bunch of nothing. Build something. And if you can't build something right now, give a little bit to somebody that's building something. Find somebody that's doing some community work. I don't care what their race is. If they're doing community work, more than likely that person's like, yo, the government is fucked. We need to work together. And if you find that person, support them, highlight them, give them a shout out on your social media. Do it for every day for a week straight. Lend your energy in the way that you can. We have to do what we can, where we are, with what we have. And in doing so, we shift that environment to be the Shangri-La that we say we want. We had this. This is not impossible. We had it more before the civil rights integration thing happened. Because people were just voluntarily choosing I'm going to support this business. And I'm not saying white people should only be over here, black people should be over here. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when you force white people to say, you got to serve these people, and you don't like black people, that's the government getting involved in some shit that they don't. I want a white person that don't fuck with me to be like, I don't like you. Fuck out of here. Oh, damn, my bad. Thank you for telling me. You know what I'm saying? When you start walking past all of them businesses in your neighborhood, black, white, whatever, that are there like, hey, we want to serve the community. We want to make a profit. We want to create jobs. And you walking past them to go, I'm going to spend my money in Gucci, forgetting that they made that whole blackface thing and they overcharging you. And you not going to give your money to Milano that's right in Philly that does ton of work for the community. That's not single. I don't know her situation with Meek. You know what I'm saying? She's an attractive sister, but I'm not saying what, you know what I mean? But my point there is there's a sister that has her own business that's in the community, but you going to Gucci. Why her clothes, which are amazingly designed, right? That's high fashion. Them Milano leather jeans, them skin hugging jeans for the sisters. Oh man. Oh, but you don't want to get a $200 for that, but you want to get a $400 over there to Louis. Like Arnaud needs your bread. Come on, man. I could go on for forever, man.
You listen to this rapper called Ransom?
I've heard Ransom.
I didn't even listen to hip hop like that, bro, but I listened to him.
I've heard of some of his stuff.
Yeah, he got a line where he speaks about that, how somebody spent 10 grand at one of these stores, but they want the stuff free from his homeboy. Psychology, bro.
Psychology. And I ain't falling for the side op.
Please tell me about your experience running for city council in Philadelphia, and what would you do differently if you were to run again?
Man, when I ran for city council, I was learning so much. Huge shouts to the Mises Caucus, which is a caucus within the Libertarian Party. They control the Libertarian Party. They are heads of state of all of those state chapters, most of those state chapters. I ran as a Libertarian because I was tired of people saying I had to be a Democrat or run as a Republican. The game is rigged. You need damn near 10 times the amount of signatures. You need 3,000 signatures to get on the ballot as a third party candidate. So I got to go outside and get the signatures. Those signatures sometimes are contested. We got way more than the 3,000, but we had them in the tug just in case they contested it. If you're running as a Democrat or a Republican, you only need, I think, like 300 signatures. The game is rigged. But I didn't want to I wanted to run for city council at large, knowing that I didn't have a huge budget, knowing that it was just going to be for the experience and learning what to do and what not to do, as well as it was going to be the ability to introduce a lot of people to this concept of libertarianism. And the people need to see that it ain't just, you don't just only need to run for president. The city council spots, which are very powerful. If you can create an alliance in city council, you get councilmanic privilege. You got all of these different things that you get. The mayor can't do nothing without the city council being a part of it. And I just thought it would be right to run as what I am, which is a libertarian. You know, now strategically, some guys in DC, because of that, the game is rigged. They are Republicans by the name in front of their thing. They run as Republicans because some of these states will not allow you. You'll get primary. There's no way for you to. Some states say you can't even vote in this if you're not a registered Democrat or Republican, which is wrong. It's wrong. People should be able to vote in all elections based on what they want to vote for, period. It's not complicated, but they'll try to make it complicated. I ran as a libertarian, knowing that it will be a rumble, and people usually win that seat with around 30 to 40,000 votes. I got beat up. I got a lot of phone calls that day of the election from people telling me that, they're telling me I have to just push vote for D all the way down, which is they're not supposed to do as people at the work in the polls. So I knew I was going to get beat up, but I wanted to learn. You can't say you want to be politically involved and not put some skin in the game. And for me, that skin in the game was me rumbling to see what that process would be like. So now I know how to do it. I might run for mayor. I think if I would have ran for mayor, to the other question of what would I do differently, I think if I would have ran for mayor, more people would have known what that means, as opposed to the power of, most people don't know the position that city council people have. I chose that at-large seat because at-large isn't restricted to a district. I could still move around and help the whole city if I would have won. What I would have done differently is I would have made BLM, the Black Libertarian Movement. That we repurposing that. That's what that means now. I would have made the BLM movement first. I would have made 40 to 50,000 libertarians in Philadelphia and then ran. And I didn't do that. But, you live, you learn. That's what I would have done differently. But I think I did a good job of, my campaign was really, really cool. We got a lot of people, Dr. Boyce Watkins was exposed to libertarianism. I think in the last election, I'm pretty sure I heard him say somewhere that he voted libertarian. We were able to highlight what libertarianism means for the hood. Everybody in the hood should be libertarian. There's no doubt about it. Limited government, don't want the government involved in your stuff. Keep more of your money, government outside of your wallet. Republicans and conservatives are not doing that. That's just the reality.
As a libertarian, what are your views on reparations?
There's actually an argument by scholars that are way smarter than me on reparations. His name's Walter Block. There was if people search on YouTube, there's a debate between Walter Block and I forget the other gentleman's name. I am in alignment with the concept of reparations. I am 100% open to the conversation and what that looks like. I think Johnny Cochran, I say this all the time because it's so sound. Johnny Cochran had this thing before he died called the Reparations Assessment Group, where he was going to target all of the corporate charters as well as the United States government for their unjust and illegal practices as it relates to slavery in America. And I think it's important to say that because some people hear the word reparations, especially white people, because leftist propaganda makes it seem like it's going to be a white people tax. And they go, I wasn't there. What that got to do with me? Well, that's why it has nothing to do with you. Their argument is also that it just means the government going to print up more money. Well, what if people for the conversation about reparations don't want money? What if they want land? The federal government owns a lot of land that they're doing nothing with. Not to mention that after so-called emancipation, it was said that these descendants or these black people that we fucked over for however long, we're going to get them to 40 acres. That's where the whole 40 acres and a mule thing, that terminology came from. Andrew Johnson reneged on that. So we wouldn't be in this conversation if maybe the United States government did what it said it was going to do. From a libertarian perspective, though, we are against free stuff because free with the government is not free.
That's why I was asked, continue.
Yeah. It's like, they're not, it's not going to be free. They're going to fire up the money printers like they're giving all of that money to Ukraine. and it's going to add to inflation. And it does. That's just basic Austrian economics, right? Libertarians are more in alignment with Austrian economics, not Keynesian economics. So we're against that. However, from the libertarian argument for reparations is, if a group of people or individuals can prove, like Johnny Cochran's reparations assessment group, that this government and these corporate charters were complicit, Norfolk Southern, Wells Fargo, insert insurance companies, whatever, were complicit, they can be taxed off of their current profits. I don't know if that argument wins, but I think that from a libertarian perspective, as it relates to stolen labor, because we believe in labor, we believe in contracts, so from tort law alone, and we believe in no statute of limitations on stolen property or stolen labor. An example of this is this family maybe a year or so ago that proved, they fought in court for 2 years and proved that their elders had their beachfront LA County home taken from them. The Los Angeles County had to give it back. That is a form of reparations. I'm not saying that all reparations comes in the form of fiat currency or the American dollar, especially after the way that they doing massive printing. And, you know, at this point, we in not just hyperinflation, we in stagflation and in a recession. So I'm not saying it because I might want mine in Bitcoin. Some people might want it in land. I think that to just say it will never happen because it's a difficult conversation, or that one group or people knows the exact answer, I think that's wrong. I think it's even more wrong to African people, African descendants, African Americans that could fight to prove their claim, to say that we ain't got the money, it's a pipe dream, it should never happen. And then right after there, they go print up, I'm not saying that this is the way that it has to go, but then they go print up a bunch, billions upon billions of dollars, damn near $1 trillion, and give it to Ukraine. It's a spit in the face. Not to mention, there are other groups of people in America that do and have received reparations from the United States government. Whether that's the indigenous people for how the American government fucked them over in its land, and I granted believe that some of that land was trash, and it may be no taxes, it may be casinos, whatever. To pretend like it's not a conversation that black people should have is just a false narrative. And there, as a libertarian, I understand why some hardcore libertarians that don't know what reparations even is, they think it's a white people tax. For them to not even be open to their own scholars on the topic is stupid. It's stupid. I think it's a great way to start the conversation as it relates to something that this new, because I'm going to make millions of people that are in Democratic parties go libertarian. That's what BLM is about. If you don't have an answer, and you do have an answer because libertarian scholars like Rothbard gave this case for it 50 years ago. If you didn't look at your own scholars and you're a bit offended that this new group of people is going to show up and you don't have an answer to that question. So if someone says, what's the libertarian perspective on reparations? And you don't have an answer for it, that's on you. That's on you. Because there is, again, property rights, stolen labor. The vast majority of the homes or plantations were built by African people and African descendants of slavery. So you stole the labor. If you can prove it, that your great had a hand in that, take it to court. I don't see why anybody would be offended by that. Do I think that it's going to be easy? Hell no. Hell no. You know what I'm saying? Do I think that it's a worthy conversation? Do I think that if we could find some common ground and most people recognize that it's not what, that TV show ATL, Atlanta, said it is, which is like, oh, you white, so you got to, on this, your check, because he did a whole show on it. Danny, whatever his name was, Glover. When you recognize that you've been told that this conversation is something that it's not, and you open your mind up to what that may be, and you can at least acknowledge, yeah, people were dicked. And then some people will say, well, my ancestors were Irish and they were indentured servants. Okay. Do you feel like the United States government did something wrong to your ancestors? Yeah. Cool. People over here fighting for that does not stop you from fighting for that. You got a claim? Take up the claim. As opposed to going, well, since we not in the conversation, y'all shouldn't have the conversation. That's stupid. That's Karen shit. And so I think that, there is libertarian scholars on this position. It does not come from, and I agree, it should not come from you as this random white person are here, so you owe me $20 every 2 weeks. That's stupid. That's just dumb. And that's never been the argument, but mainstream narratives and leftist propaganda has packaged it that way. So I totally understand why a person under that definition would be like, fuck no, I ain't had shit to do with that. And that's a fair assessment, but that's the libertarian position on it. Do I trust the American government to ever make it happen? No. Do I think that there's small outfits of people that could take that up as the cause and rumble? Well, yes. Will I support those efforts in whichever way that I can? Because the United States government, overreaching government, did something wrong. Then you said that you were going to fix it, and then you didn't. And there's no statute of limitations on that. So I don't think that those are conversations that are contradictory from a libertarian or pro-black, whatever perspective at all. I don't think it's contradictory.
The last ban you received, right? You were speaking out against the sexualization of children and your issues with pedophiles.
Yeah.
What do you believe can be done collectively to stop the sexual grooming of children that is taking place in America?
Violence. And I stand on that. I should have worded it different for Twitter. Because all it served to do was a bad tactic on my part. All it served to do, I think at that time I had over 150,000 Twitter followers. Everybody follow me on Twitter, Maj Toure 999. I think that one's up to 26,000, followers, which is less, which means it impacts sales, it impacts outreach. And it's going to be harder for me to get Milano's sister without that 100,000 Twitter followers. I'm joking, internet. But nah, it just was a bad tactic. It was true, but tactics can be true and be subpar. It just served to get me kicked off the platform. But to answer the question, the answer for pedophiles is swift violence. Swift violence. If I find someone sexually, this was the tweet that will be okay if I say it here, especially in context. Because I couldn't give a further breakdown because at the time I wasn't a blue check. That's the only reason why I bought the blue check, to say longer stuff. Context is important. What I said was, if I find there's a sexual grooming of reading sexual things to children in my community at a library, the drag queen story hour type thing comes to mind, and they're reading sexual things to children, I'm going to pull up, I'm going to assault you, I'll probably go to jail, I'll bail out, and if I find out you're still doing it again, I'll come back and I'll assault you again because I don't give a fuck. I stand on that. Here's the context. Children, from a libertarian perspective, cannot consent. Anyone doing things, as someone that has been falsely accused of statutory rape, me, it's a heinous fucking thing. It's the worst thing to be under the cloud of. And knowing that, I know that that's why so many people, when they're trying to villainize somebody, they say that. I think that the people that say that about somebody and it's not true should get the time served that that person would have gotten. But as it relates to people actually being pedophiles and impact, I don't care how they try to rebrand minor attracted persons. And okay, maybe you are minor attracted in your head. I can't control what happens in your head. And it's the only privacy really left until they come up with these things that in your brain thing, if they haven't already. But I can't judge you for the things that's in your head. But when you do a physical sexual act towards a child, I'm going to fuck you up. I'll go to jail. I don't care. I'll bail out. I may not go to jail. The guy that shot the guy years ago in the 80s, it was coming out. He took his son to a karate instructor. The karate instructor sexually assaulted his child. He waited for him to come through the airport and he popped him right on live air. He didn't go to jail. I'm good with freedom. If I had to murder a pedophile and go on the run, I'd make a fun time out of it. It would be like Catch Me If You Can, I'm the gingerbread man. In the general public, and I would try to like make a way that I could sell merch and I could do it hand to hand and I wouldn't be tracked, and I would figure out a way to like put it on the internet from my, yo man, I'm gonna send you a joint, put it on the internet. So if they try to track the ISP, it would be from somewhere where I'm not. I would make a fun time out of it until I'm 80 years old, or I would just leave the country. But the answer to that is violence, in reality. And I'm not talking about adults that take their children to drag queen things. I think you're horrible parents, but that's not actually sexual. It's weird as fuck. And I'm side-eyeing the parents, and my children are never around you. But we're talking about pedophiles. And I want to be clear. The answer is violence. When the COVID lockdowns happened and Walmart had lines of people outside, and they were trying to tell people they had to have, and a lot of these places, those other stores were closed. The city said these stores have to close, but Walmart stayed open, which was so contradictory because for some reason COVID won't go into Walmart, but whatever. And so they wasn't letting people in to get food and groceries at Walmart if they didn't wear a mask. And then what started to happen over time was there were some people that got into fights with security for trying to make people wear a mask. Quietly, Walmart didn't make it a policy anymore. They just handed people masks as they walked in. They didn't say it's a requirement. They asked and they insinuated, and they handed you the mask, but they didn't say you can't come in here because you don't have a mask on. And that was because people were violent. Anyone that acts like violence doesn't get shit done under certain circumstances is lying to themselves. That's the reason why we have a Second Amendment. If you try to violate my human right to exist on this planet, I am well within those same human rights to defend your encroachment with violence. We are not talking about unwanted and unnecessary and unjustifiable violence. But if you are sexually doing things to a child, that is the very narrow window that I'm okay with violence for.
But so I'm confused now. Why did you get banned from Twitter? Was it did you make homophobic statements?
No, they mass reported it. They mass reported it because they said it was an act of violence. Because I said I would assault them, I would get arrested, and I would come back out and assault them. The LGBTQ mafia is real.
No, that's where I'm going with it. Like, I'm just saying, like, all right, I'm just trying to clarify this. You made a comment against pedophiles, but you were attacked by the LGBT community?
Yeah, I made a comment about it was steeped in if I see you reading sexual content. Yeah. I said assault, which is a form of violence.
But assault could be anything. It's not
assault could be a slap.
Yeah.
Right? But because I said assault, that's technically, they packaged it as it was a threat of violence. And most people were like, well, yeah, they're reading sexual shit to children. And they agreed with it.
All right, let's clarify this. So I just want to see how the other group got involved. What did you mean by sexual content to children?
Reading books that are talking about sexual shit. So for example, if I went into if I didn't have on a drag queen outfit and I went into a park and put up a sign that said sexual story hour, and I'm just in the same clothes that I'm in right now, the grown men in that park, and I was reading the sexual process to children, not a sexual education to teenagers that are already having sex that their parents signed off on. This is the penis, this is the vagina, or these are how two gay men have sex to children in the park. How do you think that grown men in that park would respond to me? Yeah. The way that any solid man would. You're going to, at minimum, smack me around and at least kick me out the park. Yeah. But for some reason, when I said it on Twitter, Twitter also operates off of algorithms. So if they mass report it when the LGBTQ community got wind of it, because so many people were retweeting it, millions and millions of views.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what is their issue with. Why are they defending? It seems like they're defending. You're arguing against pedophilia, so they're defending pedophilia.
Yep. And grooming.
But
now,
what does that have to do with what they do, though? I thought it's like homosexual, man on man, woman on woman.
Now we get
trans.
into the crux of it. Now they keep adding. I believe that the LG. First, let me give a huge shouts to my gay, bisexual, and lesbian homies. My lesbian homegirls are hot as fuck. They are adults that are making adult decisions. And those gay and lesbian homies and my cousin who's transgender are also like, what the fuck is this? They didn't fight for rights to be sexual with children. Their movement is being co-opted. That's why they keep adding more and more letters. What's the plus for? Y'all leaning into the, if we come up with something else. No. That's the equivalent of when back in the day, motherfuckers be like, man, nobody's coming to get your guns. Nobody's coming to, and we was like, nobody's coming to get your guns. Nobody's coming to get your guns. Nobody's coming to get your guns. Fast forward, a couple years back, Beto O'Rourke runs for president. Hell yeah, we're coming to get your guns. All of the people that were conspiracy theorists, again, were right. You're setting up this thing for rebranding of pedophilia to this minor attracted person situation. Plus.
Go again?
Minor attracted person.
I never heard that term.
That's the new rebrand of, they're not calling it pedophilia. They're not trying to call it pedophilia no more.
I'm not laughing.
It's so insane.
What did they call it?
Minor attracted persons. MAPS.
Minor attractive person.
Minor attracted.
Minor attracted person.
As the minor, I'm attracted to, not me. I got to be careful how I say this because context, edit could paint me a whole different way. These people are attracted to minors. So instead of calling them pedophiles, the rebrand is MAPS, MAPs.
Well, you know what? We did an interview with Umar recently. He was talking about this trans children thing. And he was saying the issue, he brought up this pedophile thing too. Because he was saying in court now, his argument was if a child can have consent to have a sexual change at like 12, they could also argue that they make the decision to have sex. So it's a free-for-all for this pedophile thing.
It's an agenda. And anybody that acts like it's not is the same people that act like they wasn't coming for our guns back in the day. It's an agenda. What and here's the real, not the children are the absolute victims. Here's the danger for movements. All of the people that are homosexual that were fighting for just, don't beat me up because I'm a gay dude. Don't beat me up because I'm a lesbian. They were fighting for I just want to be treated as a human that has a different sexual orientation. And that's, as an adult, 100%. That's your thing. It don't have shit to do with me. It's not going to help me get Milano's sister. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying, though, is it creates a space where it's, now here comes the agenda and there's people jumping in onto your agenda. It's people coming in and going, yeah, LGBT. First it was LGB. Then it was LGBT. Then it was LGBTQ. Then plus. Now the colors on the rainbow changing. Now it's they adding the pink. They adding the brown. They adding the light blue. The white. I did a video on that too. And they was like, that's not what it means. Oh, just like we're not coming for your guns. Bro, they have an agenda. We ain't got to argue about, I challenge people to not spend time arguing about if it's an agenda or not. The best way to prevent against it is to make sure that you're raising solid boys and girls. You're being very careful about, if you send your children to school, you're being very careful about what's on their television, their screens, and what's being learned in their school. If their school is in compliance, because again, that sexual education class was for older students back in the 90s. And your parents still had to sign off on it. Now they flipping it where you are wrong as the parent if you say no. They want to do it in secret as if they know better than the parents. When the state of Florida and their governor, Ron DeSantis, was like, we're not doing this. It was, you're transphobe, you're homophobe. No, there shouldn't be a conversation about any type of sexual energy as it relates to elementary school children. What the fuck? What they got? They trying to figure out how they going to get ice cream and snacks. When is recess? There's an agenda. Be paying attention to the propaganda. You see it on TV. All of the television shows.
The show's got a character in there right now, bro.
Every episode.
And the wild part is it don't even correlate with the storyline, bro.
It has nothing to do with the storyline. That's when I know it's cat. It's what that's like, yo. What would be the purpose of casting Donald Trump in 100 years as a black dude? Like, how does it add to the storyline for this inclusion argument? It doesn't. I get it. He got baby moms. The system hate him. He had to get money on his own. He got different baby moms. He got to try to keep his kids. They might go back and forth with him. You know what I mean? They lie about him on television. You could argue that, yeah, he getting black man treatment out here. But he ain't black. How would that add to the Netflix story? It wouldn't. How does it add for you to show me that this child is gay? They 7 in the movie. What? It's an agenda. And so that's why I got kicked off of Twitter. I'm trying to get them numbers back up. Everybody that sees this, follow me on Twitter. Maj Toure, MAJTOURE 999. That's me on Twitter. It's the blue check joint. There's a few fake pages that have popped up since then. That's when you know you make it. You made it when people start making fake pages of you. But yeah, man, just that's another reason why we co-opted the BLM phrase. Black Lives Matter as a statement, 100% agree with it. Duh, white people agree with it. What the organization initially said they were going to do as it related to ending qualified immunity, which would curb a lot of this police brutality, they did not do it. Then it was co-opted, incorporated, because it started with the Ferguson movements and Mike Brown. And I went to Ferguson and had conversation with Mike Brown's dad. I had conversation with Darren Seals' lady, you know what I mean, who was shot and his car was set on fire. After he was like, yo, this BLM thing, that's not us. They just got $500,000 from Google. That ain't us. They've been co-opted. They co-opted it. They killed a lot of the people that started the Ferguson movement. The Ferguson Police Department is not just say, oh, this is suicide. How you get the truck catch on fire and you got shot in the head? And I asked the police officer. I went to the Ferguson Mini Mart. I went there. So they co-opted this thing. And now I'm co-opting it. Y'all didn't do what y'all said y'all was going to do. And now there's no conversation about that. It now is about, and they had it on the website, it was about destroying a nuclear family. The black family has been, and we're talking more specifically to the black community now. I don't want anybody to take this as a disparaging remark about any other type of family. The black family in the black community was our source of strength. The family is the first technology. You know what I mean? So you guys would say Black Lives Matter, but you would try to extend the democratic agenda of removing black fathers from that household. That's what the whole war on drugs and separating the black man, putting them in the prison industrial complex is all about. So I can't champion that. Matter of fact, you are no longer fit to serve, and that moniker now needs to go to something more productive for our communities. Black libertarian movement.
Real quick, what is the Black Lives Matter mission statement now again?
Initially, now?
Yeah, what is it now?
It's a whole lot of, and I can't remember if they took that part about removing the nuclear family off their website. But in essence, it's like we are going to be a it's basically the equality, diversion type of energy of everything goes. They're trying to go for this ESG score. They're trying to show we're a fake woke company. We are in alignment with the nuclear family is wrong. If it's 2 men or 2 women, that's better. If the traditional values of
Hold on. That's what they're dealing with right now?
Yeah.
I didn't pay him any mind, so I don't know. But it's like, I didn't know that's what they're dealing with right now.
Ask Umar. Umar break it down thoroughly.
I gotta look into that.
And they had it on their website for some time, and I heard that they took it off, but I'm not certain because I don't be on their site no more after that either.
They said the nuclear family is not where it's at.
And they trying to remove that.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter Incorporated.
Incorporated.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's a different, and I want to be clear because sometimes when I say this, everybody in the hood knew this from the gate, was like, I don't know about those guys. An empty symbol of painting Black Lives Matter on the street is not legislation. It is not the conversation around reparations and what that looks like. It is not arming our people from the same races that you say the system is racist. It's just it's a phrase painted on the street. I don't care that the NBA put a rainbow on their basketball court. I don't care that that y'all still bombing black nations around the globe. France is about to start bombing Niger right now. So that empty symbolism is not substance. So when it's just a bunch of empty symbolism and you're advocating for things that have actually been a symbol and a source of substance to our communities, that family structure, I have to say something about it. Now, what happens is people that ain't woke enough in the sense of actual woke, actually like not sleep out here, because that's what it actually means. Those people that's just, they're going to paint me as, oh, he with them. He anti-black. And it's, nah, bro, that thing that they feeding you that's black ain't black. That's like people that say soul food is good for black people. It's not. It's what we dealt with what we had at that time. You know what's good for black people? Fruits, vegetables, and a balanced diet. Not every single meal is absolute grease, vegetable oils, butter. That's why you got diabetes now. But you don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear me say, maybe today you should drink a gallon of water. Maybe this motherfucking soda that you put in your body is destroying you. You don't want to hear me say that because it's been marketed as this what black people do. When you talk about this what black people do, and what timeline, and what, like, our history on the planet is expensive. And you focusing on this time period when we kind of might have been at our weakest. I don't remember none of the stories of the people of Songhai eating chitlins. I don't remember this conversation. My grandmother used to tell me, she was like, we didn't eat meat that much. Meat was expensive. When we had farms, we grew things, and we might have grew some corn so we could have some cornmeal and make some cornbread with something to stretch the meals. But black-eyed peas, collard greens, yeah, them vegetables were there, but we didn't get meat all like that. And I'm not saying people got to be vegan or whatever. I'm saying this concept of what you've been told to our conversation earlier of what is black culture, they're presenting something to you. And don't get me wrong, a collard green, sweet potato, fried chicken platter, whew, chef's kiss, delicious. But am I going to pretend that eating that 4 days out of the week for dinner is not contributing to our high cholesterol, high blood pressure, heart disease, heart attacks? Then on top of that, obesity. Then you ain't going to the gym. Then on top of that, you think that food in them Chinese stores, you think that's chicken? You think that's that? Why they put them stores right where you at? Why? The conversation needs to be more robust. And when you tie it into all of these things, and I know we're talking about food, but it ties into who put these people here that's saying they speaking for me? Who put them there? How did they get a platform so fast? I was saying this yesterday about this girl that just interviewed Drake, Mark Cuban, and Tyga, and Lil Yachty. And it's her first podcast.
My white girl.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, who are you? Are you a podcast industry plant? You've gotten arguably some of the most famous people in hip hop culture and a billionaire. And these are your first 5 joints? Stop it. Where did you come from? Now, I'm not saying she can't. They're interesting interviews. But I also have to ask objectively, when there's podcasts like this, that are talking about things that are serious matters that benefit all Americans and will benefit humanity. How she just get this alley-oop? Where'd that come from? Who is she related to? How did you get Mark Cuban to come take an interview laying on the floor with you, the billionaire? These are questions that we have to start thinking. Why are these things that have been presented as the heads of our communities, why are they placed there? Why is there no strong black male leadership at the head of Black Lives Matter National? Black men aren't impacted by the prison industrial complex. Black men aren't impacted by... Mike Brown was killed, was a black dude, by police. George Floyd, black man. There should be no black male leadership in this. That's not an argument that I ever want to... The same as, where the women at? If your organization is all men, you got a sausage fest.
A lot of times, both with music and media, there's a critique in regards to what's being produced.
Yeah.
There's not enough acknowledgement of the taste of the person consuming the media, but also the person producing the media is not taking responsibility for the type of things that they're doing. What I notice when it comes to black media, there's a focus on obviously entertainment.
Yeah.
Bickering amongst each other and hypersexual topics, bro. It's pretty disturbing.
It's like them three.
So the thing is now, there on another side, there's a critique of white media, white media's perception of black people and the things they focus on.
Yeah.
At what level do we have to take responsibility for the media we produce? And also the reality, are people willing to make the financial sacrifice to provide the media that the people need and go through a period to change the taste of our consumers?
100%. It's both. I never say one without the other. When I'm critiquing media outlets that would champion death, destruction, slurs, and degradation towards black people or whatever, insert whatever ethnic group, I'm not going to ignore the individuals that sign up for that role. And I get it. Some people go, well, as an actor, you an actor. There's a movie, Hollywood Shuffle, by Robert De Niro. Robert Townsend. You know what I mean? And then at the end, he was like, if it's just about work, there's work at the post office. And he took a quality role as an actor at the end as a postal service worker. His mom was the grandmother felt the way. Yeah. She showed up and was like, a coon is a coon. And there's a way to be an actor and be serious about your craft without denigrating yourself. We see it all throughout media. We see the shucking and jiving, the bug-eyed, the step and fetch it. There's another great movie called Bamboozled. You know what I mean? That talks about that with the One Wayans brother. And it was a Spike Lee joint. Tommy Davidson was in it. You know what I'm saying? And these guys tap dancing. And the Roots, ironically, were the house band for that television show. And I always thought that's interesting because now the Roots are a housebound band with Jimmy Kimmel. Well, I think it's Kimmel. But and that's not a diss to the Roots. I think Thought is one of the most dope MCs of all time. And anybody that disagrees, you're wild right now. And he's from Philly, Philly shit. But so there is an individual responsibility to go along with corporate media. Anytime that you only pick one and don't talk about the other, you're setting yourself up for failure. Because they couldn't do it if you wasn't okay with it. And why are you okay with it and actually trying to promote it? Knowing that some people is like, damn, I could use this acting job. And it's more than just that. You guys will actually highlight and make one of these dudes really rich for doing the tap dance shit. And knowing that certain actors, starving actors, are like, I need to work. And they want to, this might be an opportunity and now open up for other doors, which is true. So the media is dangling that carrot. And I would be, a little more okay with it, for lack of a better phrasing, if y'all also weren't going out of your way to destroy the media that's the other. You went out of your way to destroy a different world. You went out of your way to steal the concept of living single and destroy it. That's Friends. That's where you got Friends from. You went out of your way. You'll build your budget or your new networks off of these black comedies that talk about black issues and educated issues and talk about some certain political issues. Different World was a perfect example of it. Rock, that was on Fox, which was the #1 TV show.
They touched on some serious issues.
They touched on serious issues while being entertaining. He wasn't this fancy drug dealer. He was a working class black man that loved his wife and took care of his family in Baltimore.
And had a relationship with his father.
His brother's right there. Didn't say everybody was perfect. Wasn't rich. That was the #1 television show on Fox when it was canceled. Number one. So you telling me that you would take a number one television show off of the air when that means more ad revenue. You know why? Because it's about power. It ain't about money. After a certain point, they'll give you the money to make sure that your people are powerless. But they'll take the money away from themselves to make sure that they maintain power. Because it's influence. Now you got people saying, I got a regular working class man job and I'm going to stand for these certain principles. Now I would have loved for him to highlight, because that episode, they got kicked off after the episode where it was some of the best acting I've ever saw on television. It was the episode where he was checking the dude about selling drugs in the community, bringing death to the community.
Pinky.
Yeah,
I forgot his name. No disrespect to the break.
You mean
his the real actor's name? Yeah.
And it was a powerful scene. Boop, right off the air. I would have loved for him to say, "Let me build with you, brother," and said, "The government is putting this in our communities. That, and make it go against that." But even then, that was still impacting the prison industrial complex by starting to have that conversation. Boop, TV shows goes right off the air. Then he made another show called The Corner. You know what HBO, and it was on HBO. You know what HBO did? Turned it into The Wire.
But The Corner was too real, bro.
Real. Real.
The Corner was too real, bro.
And they took the concept and made it The Wire and changed some of the other things. HBO.
The Corner dealt with like life. But The Wire was more like
how we can catch the bad guys for selling drugs.
Kind of like a little robber crime vibe. But
right.
Like, The Corner showed the turmoil of how the social, economic, spiritual things like destroy people.
Right.
You know?
Showing things like that educates a person more along the lines of, maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I don't want to use it. Maybe I don't want to sell it. Maybe. It just gives people a different level of education. Right? The Wire, which is hands down one of the best television shows as well to ever touch a network, kind of more talked about how it still packaged the dudes selling the drugs. Even though they had storylines that showcase their personal lives and things, it still made it, the enemy is still the state in that argument. But it wasn't shown as the state. These are people, because when the black dude said, we're going to make it Amsterdam, we don't want no violence. We want to buy for one, sell for two. If there's bodies in this area, we're going to stop your whole operation. There was no crime in Baltimore during that time. Why? Because it's not a crime. It's morally, it becomes a question of, do I want to sell death? But then the question becomes, does this person want death? Because that same argument could be applied to alcohol. So The Wire did it in that sense where it showed, it was like, yeah, I don't have no crime on my corners as the chief in charge of that area. What are you doing that's different? You know, my guys are out there doing the work. All they did was, we not making this so-called illegal. He proved it, and the TV show said it. The war on drugs is a sham. And if you remove the incentive to be violent because it's just transactions, the violence goes away because there's no need for a turf war. If I got a corner that's humming and somebody want the corner, and the reason why I got to defend it, and it's the same reason why they want to take it, because it's humming and I don't know how long that bread going to be going that way. But if it's legal everywhere, then there's no point. I can just get it anywhere. Portugal did something similar a few years back where they decriminalized all of those hard drugs. And during that time, like over 2 years, in less than 2 years, violent crime dropped like 80%. If you want to take drugs, go ahead. It's dumb. I smoke cigars. If I'm not careful, that is asthma and lung cancer at the end of that. I am making an adult decision to go into the store and buy cigars. The problem is the people don't recognize that the reason why it's so-called legal is because the government gets a cut. It's called the ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. That means they get a cut. Here's how it's even more of a contradiction. If I bought 10 bottles of liquor at cheap liquor at $10 a wop, I bought 10 bottles of that. I bought 100 cases of cigarettes and 50 cartons of cigars. Then I went outside. I paid for them. They're mine. and I said, this bottle cost me $10. I want to sell it to you for New Year's Eve for $20. If they found out, they would come arrest me. So it's not about safety because it's the same product. You just want to control the outcome of the money that comes from it. If I take them same bottles and say, I'm having a party every weekend at my crib, and we call it a speak loud instead of a speak easy, and I sell the liquor at shots, they will come arrest me at gunpoint. They want to control the trade, and they want to control the use of violence, or have the monopoly of violence. That's all a drug war is. And also, let's lock people up for it so we can make that bag off the prison industrial complex. The Wire showed that. So when people say, well, you as a libertarian, you want people to be on drugs. Again, if heroin was legal tomorrow, most people would not go take heroin. They would be like, it's great. People don't go to jail for it. And don't ask us to help you use tax dollars to get off of it. Get off of it yourself. That's what Portugal did. My point here is we've been told all of these things through media, through our schooling, through different forms of propaganda, whether it's on a screen in your hand or a screen on a wall or a screen in a movie. We've been told all of these things that are the antithesis of freedom, the antithesis of liberty. Freedom is your ability to do a thing, move about, unencumbered by other beings. If I want to go over here and it's not private property, I can just go over there. If I want to ingest white sugar, which is 6 times more addictive than cocaine, it's legal. But if I want to take cocaine, because I'm in Miami, I'm not taking it. But if you want to, you should be free to do so. If we educate people about how this impacts your life, we educate people and scare tactic people on one thing and say these laws will stop you from doing it, and it doesn't stop people from doing it. Just drugs won. Drugs won the war on drugs. It's over. Stop. The more that we start questioning all of these things as it relates to firearms, as it relates to our thought process, as it relates to this onslaught of propaganda that's on our brain, the more the people will, one, start thinking from more of a liberty-based perspective. 2, more people will leave the Democrat and Republican parties. They'll probably go independent or libertarian. I am openly advocating for every person to go libertarian, or at least to look into the philosophy. And a lot of the problems that we have in America, whether that's racial problems, economic problems, a lot of that stuff will get out of the way. You remove, overall, the unseen hand for the most part, and where all of these problems are, the unseen hand is the government. It's overreaching government. It's overreaching government, whether that's liberal government, whether that's conservative government. Too much government is the problem. The concept of segregation in America was sanctioned by the government. You black people, it is against the law for you to drink from this fountain. That the government sanctioned that. And I just want everybody to recognize how government is working in concert with media to promote a propaganda, not just race-based, but also in areas that are directly in opposition to our own liberty. And if more and more people think about that, and more as I challenge those platforms that we talked about that are being irresponsible with their media platform, not because they're talking about yada, 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 death, murder, kill. Cool, you're going to do that. Your masters told you to. But where it's irresponsible is you're not also saying other things or allowing other conversations to happen on those platforms. So those media outlets, people will start questioning and stop supporting. That's the reason why so many people are leaving the Democrat policies and party in massive amounts. And if we continue to inform people in these long format questions, conversations like this that generate questions to just make people think, questions beg an answer. That idea of a question in somebody's mind is like one of the most resilient things ever. You're going to keep thinking about it. You get annoyed when you have something in your head that you're thinking about, but you can't come up with the answer. It's like, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm going to go crazy if I don't think about it. It's the most resilient thing. It's our job with these platforms to continue to make people think. And it ain't just from the gun perspective. It's from the society perspective. Guns was just the introduction, for me at least.